Greetings, gamers, and welcome to the 160-second live stream from the Misfit Gamers Studios. I'm your host, Vortex, and this is D&D Discussions. On today's episode, it's going to be a little bit more casual than it normally is. I did not get the research that I needed done on our definition of magical creatures topic and the general topic of magical identification. That's going to be a much bigger topic than I expected, so will probably take me another week or two to finalize that one. Other than that, I am completely out of energy and I have no creativity today. So with that being said, I felt like it would be a good opportunity to just do a more casual hangout, talk, chat, discuss some ideas that we have for the coming future, some changes that might be coming up this summer, and what that might mean for the live stream moving forward. So yeah, join us for that conversation, ask questions in chat. And then otherwise it may be a shorter one today. So we won't be putting anybody to sleep tonight. But yeah, community stream is still scheduled for the end of this month. We have the poll in Discord right now.
See that. I haven't voted yet, so I'm not swaying anyone's decisions or anything.
I think Pop Culture Build is still in the lead with 2 votes.
Okay.
And then it's Lore and Poor, and then Critical Cocktails, I think each got 1 vote as well. So I think people want to see us drunk again. But I'm glad Pop Culture Builds was it seems like those like Pop Culture Builds, sublet and subclasses. I think I know that those were some pretty bold ideas from us, but I'm also really happy that those seem to be like the kind of like topic at hand that most people want to see.
No, I totally agree.
You know, it'd be one thing that people want to see us, you know, like drink and talk about D&D. That would be entertaining. But I feel that it says a lot about our creative process that people want to see, you know, the creations that we do, not just the entertainment of us talking. Because you can get that with any of our topics, right? Any of our themes.
Very true.
But with those specifically, I feel like that is something for us to like at least be proud of. It's like, okay, at least the what comes out of it is what people appreciate.
No, I totally feel that. I think people like creativity. I feel like people like finding new things. That's why I think our community creations on Mondays is so well received. But people just like knowing and seeing things outside of their own mind. I feel like, especially for me, like it gives me so much inspiration when it comes to creating stuff myself. So I'm super here for it.
Yeah. And I'm just, I'm really thankful because I know that those were pretty bold attempts. And just I mean, realistically speaking, I don't know how novel of an idea as those were, you know, in terms of, I don't know, I'm not going to say that we were the first person to come up with those ideas or even in the way that we did them, right? But I don't see it out there. I don't see it, you know, I don't see people, like, I'm sure, you know, I see people making Batman and Superman. Like, I see people doing pop culture icons and making a D&D based character. But I don't quite see the level that we go to, and I don't see the I don't know. I feel like it's when I do see it, it's the most obvious low-hanging fruit.
Sure.
And it's not the breakdown of what, you know, really is the character about and how would you get there with D&D terminology. I feel like it's a lot more, it ends up being a lot more straightforward and a lot more, hey, look, it's Batman, so he just needs to be dark, looks like a bat, and have gadgets, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of really looking at like, how would a character, you know, evolve into those traits. So I like that we do that. I think subletting subclasses, that is something. Now, we've seen tons of people make subclasses before. This is nothing new. We've seen brand new classes be made with their own subclasses. This is nothing new. And we've seen themed subclasses before.
Yes.
You know, like a fire sorcerer, an ice sorcerer.
Exactly.
But I will say that I'm pretty confident subletting subclasses might be one of our most original ideas. Because I don't know any example of anyone else that has specifically
this way
gone out to say, I want this subclass under this one instead, right? Like, that's not what I see. I see people making new subclasses to be synergistic,
I
and
think our
to follow
last
themes.
one did a really good job of representing that, because even the runes are the same. It's just how you go about applying, like you originally said when we came up with this. Hey, I have this source of power, or whatever the case may be. How did I only ever think of one way to execute that?
Right.
How does it not something that is able to be painted? Like, I can understand not everything's going to work with like a cleric or a paladin build, right?
Mhm.
You know, because your
And yeah,
source of power is specific on
and
that
not
front,
every
but-
subclass has to have a version under every single
Exactly.
class, but there should be at least one or two. There's got to be a couple,
right? There's got to be some that are universal,
right?
like come
Well,
on,
and
like-
I would love to, like, what one thing I can't wait to do, and this is, I haven't said this publicly because I've been, you know, we've been doing sublet and subclasses for a couple months. We've only done a handful of them, like,
Yeah.
well, two of them, but we've been talking about it for a couple months now. But
oh yeah,
you know, it's like if I wait too long, we'll never get to this idea. But what I was thinking is, even when we eventually get to someone who wants to do a cleric to paladin,
oh interesting.
what I want to do is almost something different, where kind of like how we see creatures have a small and a large version. I kind of want to do that with a cleric paladin, where I almost want to make the paladin version of the cleric, like, what would that look like? But you are now held to a higher responsibility, but therefore you're also given more power, right? So that one would be a little bit more just a power up instead of a complete like redirect and shift.
Are clerics and okay, clerics and paladins are up there. I'm looking at your class board, your caster board, I guess.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I was like, are clerics and but they're specifically under their divine magic, so they don't have a lot of the addition. But I'm curious about.
I want to make that into. Now you just made me think about it. I want to make this into a poster. I want to make this into a visual poster.
Oh, I like that.
The way that you were just looking at it and being like, I'm looking at your chart here, and I'm like, can you imagine this being like either a flow chart or just some kind of like a D&D map of all my classes?
I like that a lot.
And then having like just like little snippets of like
This is an idea.
Okay.
This is an idea.
Maybe that's why
I like
I've had
this.
it up there so long, is maybe I just need it to just be like
I
a
love that
poster.
it's never gone anywhere.
Yeah,
I
it
really
helps
do.
me so much sometimes, like just see, you know, because it's
Yes.
easier to visualize. Yeah, cool. I'm gonna do that one day. More merch ideas.
No, I love this. But so just thinking about, because in 5th edition they kind of, I don't want to say fully separated, but they kind of shifted paladins away.
I would say they did. I would say they fully separated it in the sense that paladins are now bound by an ideology, not by a faith.
Yes,
That's
and so,
really
like,
all they
They
did.
don't really have like a god that
Exactly.
gives them a power.
Exactly. It's the oath, which is
But-
another way of basically just saying that you have an ideology. You have
Yes.
a very specific ideology of life, whether that oath is, I mean, your oath is no different than a pact of the warlock, right? The only difference is your oath was so powerful, so true, and so so genuine that it itself bound power to you, right? And this is not something that I'm at all unfamiliar with, especially you remember in the Apprentice Adept series. There were certain things that could be said, words had power.
Yes,
but even in the
yes.
book series, right, like declaring love, like saying the 3 times to somebody, was a overt representation or an overt declaration of love, and that would have an actual ripple effect. Like, that magic would happen because of that. It's that, that oath, that ideology, what you said, what you meant, the genuineness of it was so strong, so focused, that magic itself reacted to it.
Yes.
And there were other times, right? Like when the Blue Adept did the friendship thing, the friendship ritual. And the ripple effect happened.
Yes.
And I don't want to say too much if anyone hasn't read
Of
the
course,
book, but I mean,
of course.
it's also a 30-year-old book. So what are you going to,
True that.
30, 40 years old book. But basically when they did the friendship and all of the creatures got affected, that ripple effect that went out, and basically all of them stopped warring. Like, that's what I mean, right? So when I think of paladins making an oath, what I mean is it's not just you being like, I'm going to get back at that person, or someone being like, I'm going to be better and I'm not going to drink anymore. This is someone who in that moment, literally everything in them aligned. And when they said, this is my path, the world reacted and said, I heard you. Here's what you need to do.
Can you think of anything in media that fully embodies that mindset? Like, there's a character out there you'd say that's a fucking paladin.
Like based on oaths,
based on like
that...
an oath. Like, this is who the heck Now, I will say I did just recently rewatch per your suggestion, the Fate series, just the first two.
Yeah.
I watched was Fate Zero, and then it was the Unlimited Blade Works.
Yep,
that was the second
one. That's a good one. That's also a really good one.
That guy in Unlimited Blade Works, I would say is that, like, hearing so much of their conversations is giving me flashbacks to this conversation right now. But I would say the Archer in that series. I would say he's the closest thing that I would say that represents a paladin, because his whole thing about just wanting to be a hero, like his oath was to be like, I am going to follow this, and like he became what he was because of that. That whole mentality. That's the closest I can get.
Right, because we're looking for someone who got an ability that can also be lost. Like, I mean, this is a good point, because I know that there are. It's just going to take me a second to cycle through. Like you know,
sure.
Put on the spot, you can't think of it.
Of course, it's always the way it is.
But what you would do is you would look for any character, because I know that Spider-Man had this, but that was a version of it. But you would look for a character who has potentially lost their ability because they don't have, like, Peter Pan. Peter Pan is a paladin.
Peter Pan.
Technically only when he goes to Neverland, but remember so think of the movie Hook. Even when he was an adult,
my favorite movie,
he went back there, right?
Sure.
What did he need in order to fly and regain his title? Happy thought, right?
Yes.
It was his kids. When he said, I want to rescue my kids, that was it. That was his, I'm Peter Pan again. He took up the sword. He took up the mantle. He got his powers back. He flew. He fought Hook.
Interesting.
Peter Pan in the movie Hook is a paladin, because because nothing could bring it back, right? Until the moment where he realized what was at stake.
So does that mean that he's just a different oath than he was originally?
Yes, that's 100% in my opinion. And why do you think he was the decrepit old man in the real world? That's an oath breaker. He was a child, became a paladin of mischief, became a paladin of living forever. Remember, his whole thing was, I don't want kids to grow up. That was his original oath. He broke that oath for love. Remember, oath breaking doesn't have to be for evil reasons. He broke his original oath of saving kids from growing up in the horrors of adulthood. He broke it for love, became an oath breaker, and what happened? He aged.
I like this idea way too much.
And then when he came back, he had to regain his powers.
That's so wild.
So Peter Pan...
I've never thought of Peter Pan as a paladin before.
Peter Pan is definitely a fifth edition paladin.
Solidifies
at least
for me.
In Hook. Specifically in Hook.
But I would say no, like...
It's hard to say, because remember, in the very, very original, if you want to go back like before, like Hook, originally, he was just another lost boy that became more powerful than the rest. But he wasn't like the original or anything.
Why?
Mainly because of Tinkerbell. Because Tink had a very close relationship with him. She taught him everything. She gave him the access to fairy dust. He was the only one who had access. Remember, because technically you needed fairy dust to fly too. Technically in the original story you needed fairy dust, and even in Hook he needed a little bit of fairy dust, but he also needed the mindset. But in the original Peter Pan, it was basically Tinkerbell that made him
kind of like a focus. But I would have at least somewhat of an argument to say that yes, all of that helped be the catalyst, but I still believe that he believed harder than anyone else.
Could be that too. And again, that's where the fun. That's where I say, like, being an oath-based paladin.
Yeah.
That's where Peter Pan.
So I still want to say, like, even old school. Like, yes, there were those other factors, but
specifically Hook, I think it's even more beautiful because it also shows the oath break. Like I think Hook is just a better representation because he became old and had to regain it by taking up the oath again, or taking up a new oath.
And like theoretically, how long was he Peter Pan before he broke his oath? Imagine.
Remember, because it wasn't until he met Wendy.
Imagine that oath like gave you immortality or something, or like
remember,
eternal youth.
It did. I mean, well, because you got to remember. Think about this. Think about this, right? So in the movie Hook, let's specifically talk about Hook, canon here. Okay.
Sure.
We're not talking about anything
Adam Sandler, or not Adam Sandler.
Robin Williams.
Robin Williams.
So we're gonna talk about just that canon. So you have to remember, he was Peter Pan, right, as a child.
Yes.
Until he met Wendy.
Okay. Does that mean because
well, hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. He met Wendy and she left. He came back for Wendy all those years. Remember, she never stayed. She grew old. Then it wasn't until her daughter that he was like, I want to stay too. So he saw his like best friend grow old, then fell in love with her daughter. That was the Hook. That's when he became an oath breaker and left the young world. Now, here's the really twisted part. Is you got to remember, young Peter Pan was responsible for Captain Hook's hand, right?
Sure, yes.
Now, at bare minimum, think about how long between the world Wendy lived in, which is much later stage London, like much, not like 80s, like 70s, 80s, or even, maybe again, even 30s. Remember when he met Wendy and her like, so you got to imagine it's been the 80s and 90s when he's old. So he's only been a human for maybe 20 years. Or he's been growing for maybe 20, 25 years. So he's probably came back to the world in the 40s. Or no, probably in the 60s. So he probably came back in the 60s.
Okay.
It's now the 80s/90s, which means he met the grandma probably 20, 30 years before that. So in the 30s. Probably met her in the 30s. He's a child, perving around windows trying to so he finds this girl, goes in the 30s, goes until in the 50s, 60s when he sees her daughter, says, I want to be now a human, becomes human, lives until the 90s, and then goes back. Now, here's the crazy part. When do you think Hook lived and found Neverland? Because remember, Hook found Neverland, and then Peter Pan tried to kick his ass out, and they battled over Neverland, and that's when he lost his hook. So you have to think, however long it was, and think about how old school pirate Hook is. He's not, like, think about the ship, think about all of his crew, they never age. So they are, like, very... So
is it not aging a property of Neverland?
Yes.
Or is it a property of
it's
the
Neverland.
Oath?
It's specifically
so
Neverland.
It's Neverland. Okay.
But the idea is, think about so the Hook's people went there, right? So think about that. Whenever Hook was sailing the seas, whenever that was supposed to be dated, 1800s, 1700s, let's say 1800s, he goes to Neverland and meets little boy Peter Pan, who's been there for a minute. They've had their battles, they lose their hand. They've been battling since 18 something. Up until 1930 that he meets Wendy, until 1960 that he meets the daughter, until the 90s when he's an old, like, dude's at least over 150 years old by my count. Dude, actually,
okay.
No, actually, that doesn't make any sense, though. No, that's wrong. Hook has it wrong because we actually got to see Peter Pan's young life, remember? We got to see.
That's what I was about to ask you. Was that his?
Well, that was supposed to be his little life, remember? Because he fell, he got found by Tinkerbell. But that doesn't make any sense because that means that he would have gone to Neverland after Hook. That he would have gone to Neverland and Hook would have already been there. But I could have sworn Hook got there after Peter Pan. So now I'm confused. Now I'm actually curious if Hook has it right or not. Like Peter Pan's origin story.
Yeah.
But then again, it wouldn't make much sense. Maybe that was their way working around him not being a complete perv. Is maybe he was born in the 20s and he was only gone for 10 years in Neverland. Then 10, 15 years later, then he fell in love. So he's only maybe...
See, I was always curious in like original Peter Pan, how Wendy and the people that they all hung out with, because there was like 4 or 5 of them or whatever.
Well, it was Wendy, John, and her brothers. It was
like when all of like, did Peter Pan lived in Neverland at that point in time, and he would come out to like find people to come play with,
he would
right?
He would try to bring kids back.
The Lost Boys were they just people that lived there? Were they people like Peter Pan that just got abandoned and left?
They were the ones that originally Peter Pan, if I remember correctly, because I mean, if I remember correctly, the original story of Peter Pan was pretty dark. But these were basically kidnapped like kids. Like the Lost Boys were basically the kids that Peter Pan kept. That stayed there.
And did Peter Pan take these people, or was it?
Yeah, he's the one that brought them. As far as I remember, he's the one that he would bring them to Neverland, because that was the whole point. He would go there. He would go to take these kids away from having to grow up. Like that was his whole thing. But I'm pretty sure there was a much darker aspect to it originally. I think like because all the original stories have like super dark origins.
Yeah,
But like the nice version is that he was just there. The Lost Boys were all there because they didn't want to go home. They didn't want to grow up. So he would bring them to Neverland, and then they would just be like, fuck it, we're gonna get kids. We're gonna be kids the whole time.
So interesting.
I should look up like the whole story again, because it's been a long time since I looked at the entire original.
Sure.
There's some speculative origin of Peter Pan being the soul snatcher as little kids. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Soul snatcher?
Like the idea of like stealing the kids so he could live forever.
Oh, interesting.
Peter Pan's shadow. Oh yeah, and then the shadow that can move without him. I've actually thought about making like a D&D character off of Peter Pan where it's like kind of like not so much like like almost like a Lich's phylactery where he has to like keep people within a certain area, so he'll stay alive forever as long as he like draws on them.
Interesting.
But like keeping them alive forever in a way, so it's like he's basically taking away their aging, which gives him more life kind of thing. So it's like
whatever life they would have had gets added to his, and so they just stay kind of frozen in a weird.
I've thought about doing that, and then having like, in order to do that, had to sever part of himself. And so therefore that's what created the shadow. In order to sever part of himself, he put it into a shadow, which
that shadow's got to like remain there to like be the funnel of the power to. Interesting.
So I've thought about doing something similar with Peter Pan, because it's such a cool idea, because then you can have like people getting kidnapped, and then like freeing them helps diminish their power. Like there's some cool interplay that you can do with this idea, but
so
it also comes down to this idea of you can play like that enemy, that NPC, you can play it really well either way. You can truly lean into the BBEG aspect, or you can lean into is it actually morally right to go against him? Because you could do things like, sure, let them all free. As soon as they leave my domain, they'll have their lives back. So that one, he's been here 100 years. Let him have his 100 years back. Just cross the threshold. Him, 200 years. So imagine that mindfuck is, you're all free to go. So imagine like, and then you have the whole thing where imagine he's not actually torturing them. Imagine he's made a perfect utopia inside whatever he needs them to stay inside.
Sure.
Imagine he's made a utopia. There is literally nothing
they want for nothing.
They're just like, why would I want to leave? I'm literally an immortal. I literally fell down 13 flights of stairs yesterday. Like, I'm immortal. Why would you want me to leave? And then again, people there, that this is all they've known, right? Like I'm literally a 7-year-old who's been here for 100 years. Do you want me to be 114 in a world I don't know? So you have that aspect, right? Where technically nothing's going wrong. Some of them may even know what's happening, like behind the scenes, like they found out and they were like, oh yeah, I accidentally found out and he gave me a choice and I decided to stay. Like, why would I leave? Like, I understand that he's zapping my future, but
so
I was a dirt farmer. What future did I have? Like, he can have that future if it means I get to have fruitcakes and play games. You know what I mean? So you could really play with the player's mind of, you have this utopia and you have this person who obviously is doing something bad. But at the end of the day, by undoing it, you doom all of the people to no longer living this blissful life. You doom them all to instant aging. And what do you get out of it? Like, you have to, and then he can either be a fully BBEG where he's evil and wants to do evil things, or he's just really afraid of death. He's just some NPC who's just like, I found a way for all of us never to die. And that's like his whole spiel. His whole thing is like the original Peter Pan, just this whole spiel of, I'm so afraid of death. I found a utopia. I found an infinite cycle where as long as I have enough people, we don't have to die. You know, and then you could always do the knock-on effect of, while they don't know it, whether he knows it or not, something else bad is happening.
Sure.
But like, can you imagine that, where it's like, he's not doing anything malice. It's just nobody wants to die. So he's like, look, I found a group of people who, as long as we all are here, none of us have to die. So it's like you could play with the players because either he could know something evil's happening or he could be doing it for an evil purpose, or it could just be totally self-centered, but he doesn't understand that something outside of his little bubble is actually going bad. Like, you know, there's like a disease or something like that he's causing, because, you know, like the equivalent exchange.
Yeah.
They're alive forever, but some, you know, so it would just be great to throw the players into this where it's like, so what's the greater evil? This plague that sure kind of sucks, but acts like any other disease, or this guy, like, if you stop him, the plague stops. But if you stop him, look what you do. So I do, yeah.
I like this a lot. I'm still baffled on the idea because I've legit never thought of that before. Like, of all the things I would have thought Peter Pan was, a paladin was not one of them. But this makes way too much sense, so I love it. I'm curious again, like, how many others are there? Like in media, because we came up with Peter Pan.
Yeah, so
like,
the other paladins.
but like, are there, like, because I don't know why it's so hard for me to think of.
Well, because most of the time it's easier in media to depict an easier source of magic, right? It's easy to depict a handoff, right?
Sure.
You know, Spider-Man gets bitten, people get hit by radiation.
Yes.
You know, I mean, you could say like, I want to say, isn't like the Green Lanterns or any of the lanterns, aren't they powered by like an alignment kind of thing where don't the rings stop working if they don't have a certain
it is powered by their will, like the strength of like what they can do and create.
But it doesn't each color also
each color is different, so like fear and anger.
But I thought for some reason, I mean, I guess no, that doesn't work. Let's see. Yeah, that's curious. I think Peter Pan was one of the best ones, but yeah, I'm really curious now. There's got to be more. There's got to be ones I'm just not thinking of.
Which one was I just thinking about? It was borderline. I feel like I could make an argument for it. Especially when it comes to like, because I'm also thinking of like, you know how certain characters like will lose their powers temporarily due to like a mental block or something to that effect.
Yeah,
like I'm thinking that could be akin to,
I mean, that's why I brought up like Spider-Man went through that too, but that doesn't really apply.
Did he really?
Yeah, there was a whole series where there's actually a couple of them. It happened in the comics, happened in one of the comic series, happened in one of his I think it happened in two of his animated series. But yeah, he gets to a point to where he like doesn't want to be Spider-Man. He's like having that whole conflict, and then like his powers start diminishing, and it's like he has to come to grips with, you either, you know, use it or lose it. But it's like he gets into that situation where he needs it and then doesn't have it, and so he has to like be like, if you want, you can't just have it when you want it.
Yeah,
it's either you
got to commit to it.
And that was the whole like story behind it, but it didn't make sense because that's not how, you know, like you went with a genetically enhanced or a radioactive spider. Like, how does your mental state affect your bio? Like, you just went too many directions.
I will say our minds have a much larger biological,
but not on DNA. Like, I'm just saying, like his DNA has been fundamentally changed. I don't know how his touchy-feeliness will affect his DNA's ability to like
tap into that.
Like, he can climb on walls because he has like the grippiness. I don't know how that's going to change because
he's going to retract,
not feeling it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like you get it because you got to strip away a lot of like the ones that have like base explanations, right? Like, you have to get rid of pretty much most of Marvel because the majority of Marvel has blanket explanations.
That's what I was thinking of. I was kind of thinking, but this would kind of be closer to a Warlock or something like that. But was it Dr. Fate from DC, where you put on this helmet? But like, I was kind of thinking like it's a commitment to the helmet.
Well, it's also kind of like Shazam then, because like, you know, and you know, you can always call on it. It's not like it's like really dependent upon your, but you had to be worthy of getting it. But once you have it, you can just use it, right? Yeah. It was more of the handoff is the problem. Like, what you need to do is, yeah, you need to strip away anything that gives like not all of Marvel, but like X-Men, you got to get rid of all of X-Men.
Yeah,
because that's just an automatic defaulted why you got it.
Yeah.
Now, not everything in the X-Men universe is what is why I say Marvel, right?
Sure,
Not
sure.
everybody in Marvel has the blanket ability, but you got to get rid of most of them, right? Because they're either gods, they're mutants, they've been, you know, radioactively or nuclearly altered in some way. Most of them, I mean, basically, you were either born or changed.
Yes.
Most of them didn't become it by self-earning. So,
Yeah,
you know, there might be some, I'm not as familiar with the greater DC universe, so I don't know everybody in DC that may or may not apply. So I almost, again, it's one of those things where kind of like Shazam, once you earn it, you kind of get it, but in a way, in a very in a representative way, not in a he is or they are paladins, but in a representative way of earning the power of a paladin, like the idea that you have to, you know, you have to want it in a way that you can't just want it. You have to like want it and need it, and also like pull it from yourself. But in a sense, going Super Saiyan is kind of like being a paladin. Like, no matter how badly Vegeta thought he deserved it, no matter how bad he wanted it, it wasn't until you get to a point where you're like, I owned it. Like,
was that thing with Bulma the first time that happened to him? That wasn't his first time going Super Saiyan, was it? When what was that dude like? Yeah, bitch slapped his lady.
I'm pretty sure that
was because I keep seeing that scene pop up on my like
sure
TikTok and shit.
Yeah, it's been a long time since
but like if it wasn't, that would have been the perfect opportunity for that to be the first time that happened to him. Just like everything just completely separate.
It's either that or it happened like maybe off screen, but I do remember like it was like something insane. But it's like, again, like, you know, like you think of someone like, you know, like with Goku, it wasn't so much that like he asked for it, but it was like, you know, watching his friend die just became a sense of, I now need to tap into something that is greater than me, right? And that's kind of like the first time he got to go Super Saiyan. So it's like that in that moment, you kind of see like an ideology of that,
sure.
But it's not quite like, they're not really, you know, they have that power.
I will say this next one that I'm about to suggest, I will say
that's
a
good point, Cart.
What's that?
I just saying Cart had a good point about the idea of handoff. Like the handoff is just a perspective of, are you worthy of it? But it's
true.
It's not really anything to do with what you've done. It's all about what the person who's handing it off to you determines. Yeah.
This next one, I would say the character themselves doesn't have any powers, but I would 100% consider them a paladin. And that is Inigo Montoya from The Princess Bride. His basically his oath of vengeance.
Yeah,
his,
I can see that.
His what do you call it? His little mantra that he says every single time is like, you killed my father.
Yeah.
He like that, like it's him like just calling on like the power of like his oath. Like this is just a commitment that he made to himself to go do this thing. So.
And again, like, and honestly, we see that represented perfectly in the end battle, because it doesn't matter how many times he got hit. He like his oath brought him to the end.
Yep.
So I kind of like that. Yeah, not really in a superpower way, but in much more of a self-determined what drives me and what gives me purpose, and literally kind of like the idea of, you know, he was always in the right place at the right time as long as he was following that oath, right? Everything else was just kind of whatever.
He kind of just went with the flow, and that's what I fucking loved about his character. He was just like, I'm gonna keep walking this direction. I'm gonna fight this dude. I'm gonna be friends with this dude later. Like all of these things is what got him exactly. I love that. I love that.
Honestly, Cart, I've heard a couple arguments for Batman being a paladin, and I don't buy it. I've never pegged Batman as a paladin. He doesn't have, especially over the course of a series, you know, every series, he doesn't have one set ideology. He's kind of flip-floppy in terms of what he wants. He just basically is just the anti-villain. He's not a hero, he's an anti-villain.
Sure.
Like, to be 100% honest, like, he is not a hero. He is not there. He is not a, I want to protect God. No, he is, if you're a super bad guy, he wants to be the one to punch you in the face. You know what I mean? He wants to do the justice against the evil people, but he doesn't really care. Like, again, like, think about it. Bruce Wayne does not take care of the homelessness in Gotham, but Batman does kick the shit out of anybody who mugs an old lady. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
He is the anti-villain. Just as
I totally feel that, but see, I have a really hard time considering Batman to be a paladin, because even if somebody were to make the claim that he had like an oath of vengeance, I would say, to what? Like, well, just to, like, in general, like, to me, like, there are certain oaths that you can take that are going to be a little bit more general. Oath of vengeance is not one of them. Like, you are on a war path to get vengeance for a thing. If it were going to be that for Batman, it would be his triggering event, the death of his parents. So he'd be on an oath of vengeance for the death of his parents, right? But he's not trying to do that. He's just sad about it, and so he's gonna punch, like you said, punch everybody in the face that he can that does bad things. So,
I mean, I do understand that. Yeah, I understand, like, Batman's ideologies and his, great intellect, his ideas behind having a counter for everybody. But that's, yeah, definitely doesn't seem paladin to me. That's more artificer, or you know what I mean. Like, I don't see a lot of paladin in Batman himself. I see a strategist for sure, but I mean, a paladin, he just doesn't stand for any one thing enough. He's intelligent, but he's not driven like that. He is, again, to me, he is just the anti-villain. Batman is the kind of hero that will step back and watch society burn as long as it's burning under its own weight. But if any outside force comes against it, again, it's like the big brother mentality of only I can beat up on my little brother. He'll let society collapse, but only if it's doing it to itself.
I would almost say, I feel like paladins are the type of characters that, to a certain extent, have a very one-track mind. Their oath is their god. Their oath is almost
Mr. Freeze is more of a paladin than Batman.
I would agree with that.
His entire oath, because he is neither.
If artificers could be a paladin, then
exactly, he is an artificer paladin because his whole goal is, it doesn't matter who's in his way, it's to save his wife, if at his own cost, and he knows that. He knows that at the end of all of this, he's willing to go to jail. He's willing to end his own life. He doesn't care as long as he finds the cure, right? I mean, and he went so far as to, cryogenically freeze his wife. Like, again, whether or not it was against her will, like, we don't, but that whole point of, he will go to those measures. Like, I could see a paladin, again, just going to any extent and fueling himself with, like, the ability to do so, right? Like, he's enduring the fact that he should be dead. He's enduring the fact that he needs to be below freezing in order to go through this, right?
I know, I'm pretty sure you've told me before that this isn't your favorite series of all, but how do you feel about John Wick being a paladin of vengeance? Now, granted, I would say all of his skills and ability he got way before he made that oath.
That's true, but the oath has nothing to do with his ability to bring that up.
Exactly.
Like, that's my thing, is like, when I think of a paladin, like, again, it doesn't have to be super powerful, but the access to what they can do has to be tied behind, whether it's the origin or the actual access itself, has to be tied behind. Okay. Oh, I got one from an anime. Because it has to be tied behind, like, a purpose. That's what I think of. Like, the whole point of a paladin is they have specifically for 5th edition, they have a self-decided purpose. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
So that's where I look for, is if you take that away, they kind of lose access to their power, right? Like,
yeah,
that's not, whether it's magic or not, it's that whole, you have to be,
you're not what you were without that.
Exactly. So that's kind of an area that I want, because as I'm saying, like anybody that could do the thing without the need isn't really a paladin, right? Like John Wick is John Wick without you killing his dog.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? John Wick was John Wick before the dog thing.
He just whipped it out and decided to point that ability towards you because of that.
But that's why I said like the going Super Saiyan is more like being paladin, because that was oh, you killed my best friend. I could not do this without the need to now take you down, right?
Sure.
But the downside is they can go
away.
But they can also go Super Saiyan whenever they want.
Exactly.
It's like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, it was a good representation, but it isn't an actual embodiment. So here's a good one. Or this one, again, kind of a roundabout way, because it's more of somebody else controlling it. But again, if you want to take it for face value, was it Trinity Blood or Blood Plus? I think it was Trinity Blood. The vampire hunter, the thing that ate vampires. Can't remember if it's Blood Plus or Trinity Blood. I think it's Trinity Blood.
It's been so long.
But it's basically this creature, this guy that he has like an ability, right? And it's being forcefully like held back. Like he's just uber strong and it's actually being like held back. And so he works for an organization that is the thing holding it back. And so he goes out and like basically kills vampires. He's actually like, he is to vampires what vampires are to humans. Like he is the thing that eats them. That is what his nature is.
He's a mosquito eater.
Yes. So
got it.
In the series, I love it because like he's basically limited down to like no power. He's just basically nearly human. So when he wants to fight, he has to basically essentially request access to a breadth of his power.
Sure.
So for like for the first whole season, like all of the low level things, he gets like 10%. He's like access, request access, 10% granted. So then he just becomes like, an able fighter, like going faster. He can basically take on vampires at that point. It's the one that also, when he makes someone bleed, he can actually control their blood and make the giant blood scythe. If you've ever seen that, he's like, he has like a cleric clothes and he has like a giant blood scythe that he uses.
Yeah.
So I think that's Trinity Blood. But yeah, so it's like that in a sense is kind of like he needs the purpose. He needs the target to access the power in a way, kind of like a paladin, because it's only when it's in use that he gets it. Again, kind of a roundabout way.
Interesting.
Because he doesn't get to use it.
I'd say that's a unique take on the paladin oath. It's a situational oath.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I would say the overall oath would be to exterminate or protect.
Exactly. The power comes only when you need to do it. Yeah. So again, it's a roundabout way of doing it. God, this is such a good question. But yeah, what character out there basically gets powers because they made a decision, but they didn't get it from anybody. They got it from the simple fact of needing it. And it was the whole purpose of getting them to there and the ideology of it leaving if they're not like fueled by that motivation. Like that is a unique one, because I don't know anyone that has represented the loss of it, because that's, I think, the key. The key is representative of the loss or inability to access the power. If it's not positioned correctly. I mean, I think I've seen it in books way more often than anything else.
That's probably very fair.
But even then, it's usually tied to some sort of greater power and not the individual just in and of itself needing that power.
Honestly, I think in most forms of media, like people want a little bit more of like a concrete explanation for things, and like just literally having it to be the power of friendship or the power of belief. Like people are like, they like to see something a little bit more tangible.
Yeah, like so like my favorite is in the Dresden Files. Technically, one of the best ones was when Butters became well, again, I don't know how old a book has to be before you can't say spoilers.
I mean, listen, you just got to be okay with where you're at. Like, but, put it in the comments. Or comments of all of our
I'm
videos.
Just saying,
like,
after so many years
for X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, after so many years, you gotta just like, But I love the Dresden Files series.
Yeah,
and there's a point at which a character gets an upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
And in this particular case, the upgrade happens. Now, granted, again, this is where it's weird, because in the lore, it's much more implied that this is a divine right level of thing.
Sure.
But it's also been directly proven that those that get this privilege do not, and sometimes adversely do not, have anything to do with the religion or the assumed source. So there's like the Knights of the Holy Order, right?
Sure.
And they have the Knights of the Cross have like these swords. There's like 3 swords, and whoever wields it is the Knight of the Cross. And what's nice is because each of the sword is been forged with one of the nails. That's why there's 3 of them.
Yeah.
So each sword has a piece of the cross in it, which is why there's only 3 of them. But these, basically in the Dresden Files series, these swords are uber powerful. They're only supposed to, kind of like Mjolnir, they're only supposed to be wielded by someone of true of heart, blah, blah, blah. They can only be wielded basically in the right moments. So it's like, it has to be for a righteous reason. It can't be for hate. It can't be for malice. Has to be against evil. Basically like the sword itself just like has prerequisites. So the knights will carry these things, but will never draw them until it's like, okay,
oh, this is going down.
And what I like about it is, while these are, again, always presumed to be powered, or at least the individuals are powered by the Christian God, because that's what the ideology is, several of the members who have wielded them are not Christian, are not at all religious. One of them who actively carries it now is anti-religious. They're like, I don't believe in God. I'm an atheist. But what they believe in is just the flow of life. So they're allowed to carry it because they still embody all of the purposes. They still believe in fighting for those that are weaker than them. They still go where they're needed to go. But in their mind, they're like, I don't believe it's a God leading me. I go places. I feel like I need to go somewhere. And when I get there, things need to be done and I do them. Is that God? I don't know. Guess what? I'm going over here next week and maybe nothing will happen. Is that God? Like, his mindset is, I don't need to believe in a God in order to do the right thing.
Right.
So even though he's absolutely not religious, he is one of the knights of the cross. So it's like, I love how they depict that it has nothing to do with being faithful. It has to do with, you are the right representation. You are the instrument that is needed in the world, not necessarily the instrument of faith. So I like that representation. So at one point, one of the swords gets damaged because someone who isn't righteous used it incorrectly and was basically forced to. It was basically one of those situations where they push the bad guys push the right person in the wrong situation to do the very, very wrong thing. But in their mind, like, it was a impulse. It was a crime of passion, fully justified. But everyone knew that was not the weapon to use in that moment, and they did. So the weapon got like literally destroyed.
That's how they treated that.
Like it basically got broken. It was basically just the hilt at that point. And like a tiny little bit of a scat, like a blade. Yeah. It basically, because it lost all its power when used inappropriately, it lost all of its holy rights, and instantly just like because this thing was going up against basically the book's BBEG. And it basically does damage to him. He can't do anything against it. But as soon as this person tried to do something not okay with it, his little tiny sword broke it right in half. So that was a big deal, right? Big ass deal. Well, this other character eventually was like, he's been kind of, meek, mild character, kind of like in the background, but really cool, really badass character, and has stood up several times, has gotten more confident over the book series, like, basically a lot of character growth. But still kind of the meek, shy, still not the one that you want front in the fight, but not someone you're afraid, or not someone that you're ashamed to have in the fight, just maybe not your first pick. Well, basically, moment of truth happened where big bad guy, after the sword destroying all that, was going to take out the very person that broke the sword. And basically it was going to be this is the first of basically my victories. So meek character finally grew the full rest of their spine and did the full self-sacrifice, said, I have to do something, grabbed the hilt, the broken hilt, and got in the way, tried to just do the block, and was just like, it's a broken sword, but I have to do something, because the other person was like, could not even, oh, hey, Cart, thanks you for the cheers. Appreciate you. Thank you. But basically, like, the person was like already broken and wasn't going to fight back. So did the self-sacrifice, was assuming that they were going to die anyway, but it was their impulse. Like, and that was the beautiful thing, right? It wasn't I might do this. It was literally, it's just what happened.
They weren't thinking, hey, I might bring this thing back. They were thinking,
this has to be
hey,
done.
I need to accomplish a task. I need to stop something from happening. And this is just a thing that's within reach. And like, okay, we'll see what happens.
So the really cool part, and it's amazing how the author handled this, because he tiptoed around it because he knew he couldn't say certain things due to copyright, like real world copyright.
Sure.
So it's so funny how he tiptoed around the explanation, and even the characters said it without saying it, because they literally, he couldn't. So they referenced a lot. Like the characters in the book heavily reference, but never say it. But basically what happens is as he does it, they explain it where he does it and the sword comes down and just gets stopped flat. But I wish I could explain it, but basically the way he described it was like the hilt, a beam of light came from the hilt.
Sure.
And and the great part about it is the character's a complete nerd. And it's like modern world.
Yeah, cars and stuff like that.
So the simple fact is literally, without being able to say it, became a lightsaber. A actual honest lightsaber, because he was a nerd and that was kind of his like thing. Is believing like also it literally manifested into the next weapon for him, and that's what it is now. Like when was it
a different character than the one that broke it in the first place that picked it up? Yeah, that's what I thought.
And one that's never wielded it before, one that it was never even on anyone's radar that he would be the next wielder. It was literally just kind of happened.
So I don't know if you've ever seen World Trigger. It's an anime.
No, it doesn't sound familiar.
It's this weird anime where these creatures from like another dimension come and like steal humans from Earth, and they have these like weird weapons called triggers, and you turn on these triggers and your whole body turns into like this other substance called Trion, whatever. Anyway, they have these really cool weapons. And some of them are black triggers, right? And black triggers are usually created from creatures who are people who have like died in the past and like can become these weapons. And so like it gives me reminiscence of that, because you can actually pass this weapon from person to person, and different people can potentially wield it, but only if you are compatible with it. Right.
Gotcha.
So like not everyone's going to be compatible, but some people can be compatible.
And that's kind of like what happened in the book. And that's why I feel like that was like more of a paladin moment, because it was you took on the oath of protecting those that can't protect themselves. And that's what that was. That was the embodiment of, you have shown you're willing to put yourself in front of them. And so you've earned this, right? So that's kind of like, but I don't know anybody who like, that's crazy. There's no major pop culture hero that gets their powers like purely from like,
I can't think, like there's gotta be, but I just cannot think of them right now.
Like it's gotta be, just like a character that got their powers simply because of their
I'm trying to think of like powers that have manifested in like the right moment, like where like they were like kind of like you just said, like I'm gonna go protect this person even though I'll probably die. I'm gonna try and protect them, and then it like lands on their back and breaks off because you know they got super strong or what. Like I'm trying to think of, because I know that I've seen.
I mean, mostly
like
that's the trope when you get your powers. It's usually in your teenage years. It's usually in a moment of stress or something like that. Like One Punch Man. But see, One Punch Man just is like he. It's not like his stuff just turns on. He just chooses. I mean, maybe because he chooses not to fight, but that's not really. Choosing not to fight is not really the source of his power, though.
No,
his power is more of he's just bored because he became bored. Too powerful.
Like there might be a character in the One Punch Man series that could qualify as that if I think long enough, but I don't think One Punch Man himself is that.
Like who's powered by, because I don't want to say like their beliefs, right? But like who's powered by themselves and not by an external force? Like that's the big thing.
Theoretically, again, I don't know what the manga actually claims. Like there might be some weird god that's giving him his power, but in the anime that I've seen, the only indication that we have of where he gets his powers is his workout routine. 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, and running a mile every day.
Oh, that One Punch Man thing?
Yeah, that. And so it could be the belief in that, like if you want to call it something.
Yeah.
But then again, the question is like,
Bike
okay,
Man.
what?
What's Bike Man?
Moomin Rider? Moomin Rider is from One Punch Man, and he is a regular dude that's on a bicycle, but he's a part of this superhero crew, right?
Okay.
And he is the highest member of the lowest tier. So you got like S rank, you got A rank, you got B rank, and then you got C rank. He's the number one C rank because he literally can't do crap. But there's this one scene, it's so brutal. He's getting the shit kicked out of him by like an actual villain. And then, One Punch Man comes in and saves the day because that's what he does. But anyways, Moomin Rider, yeah, he's the closest thing to a paladin. If at any point in time he would get some powers that allow him to do something, but he can't do shit. Like, much respect for Moomin Rider, he doesn't do shit. He just like, he'll like help people get out. He'll like be there. He's an inspiration. He's got the heart of a hero, but he's got absolutely nothing to back it up with. Maybe his power is just that he can get incredibly close to death and not die. That could be a power. Where are you? That's what...
I'm trying to see. Yeah, I'm trying to like just look at like Elon Mao. I don't know who that is. Elon Mao.
The person I know is Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Where are you? There you are. Boop, boop, boop.
Ooh, what's this? Are you familiar? Oh, I don't know much about this anime, but I've heard it's pretty brutal.
What's it called?
The anime is either Berserk.
Yes, it is very brutal.
So Guts, is that a good representation of someone who like, or do they just kind of are they just like a super powerful just warrior? I don't know if they have powers or not.
The only thing that really embodies powers that they have is the suit of armor that they get later. And so I would not say that. Other than that, it's just like they're kind of like super serum. They're just anime strong, right? You train hard enough in anime, you can do superhuman like things, cut a boulder in half, do craziness like that. But I wouldn't say that's like, I would say that's closer to like John Wick. Like, that's just him. That's just what he can do, and he chooses to aim it at a certain thing.
Oh, again, I don't know enough about My Hero Academia, but there's a reference here that All Might gets his strength from his like belief in justice. I don't know if there's any source behind that.
My Hero Academia, my perspective, is a bad example because they, like X-Men, get their, like, they all have powers. Like, every single person in that universe has powers, and it's called a quirk. And that quirk is just a thing that you have. Now, his particular quirk is called One for All, right? And that particular quirk is what allows him, he can do something with that quirk that nobody else can do. He can literally pass it on to other people, which is how the main character gets his ability, because it gets passed on to him. So but like it's this idea that I am here to protect everyone around me, like one for everyone, you know. Like
I want there to be like a villain who's because he's one for all. I want there to be another person that's all for one.
There is,
and he just takes.
He's literally the antithesis of it, and he can steal other people's quirks. Like that's 100% what it is.
That also reminds me of Heroes, because that was
yes,
the one dude.
Yes, Sylar and what was the Peter Petrelli? No, that was his brother.
I forget. Yeah, but yeah, it's so funny how those get cycled. Yeah, Daredevil maybe, but
his powers are just really good senses. Like,
yeah, I mean, so again, it's like he's kind of an oath in the sense that he fights for the right reason, but that's not really where his like abilities come from.
Yeah,
he wasn't really like bestowed that due to like his. It's probably got to be in like a book. I doubt there's any, because again, how do you represent that in a good story, like visually, right? Like there's probably got to be something in a novel that's more based on, you know, being able to have it in you that powers you.
Sure.
Because I'm like, yeah, you know, Bleach doesn't do it that way, because that's more of like you have it or you don't. Like Yu Yu Hakusho, but again, that's a learned thing. Anybody can learn how to do it.
Yeah. I was almost thinking Star Wars for a second with the Force, and with how, like, theoretically, but you don't have to necessarily align yourself with one thing, because you can be a Jedi, you could be a Sith, or you could be one of the Greys. Right, and be like in the middle. So,
I mean, okay,
yeah.
So, I mean, I guess Thor does technically make sense, because he can technically lose
worthiness,
his worthiness.
But is that,
but again, that's really something that's gifted, that you have. That's something that you have to achieve, not something that comes from within you.
And so the other thing, we were talking about this earlier when we were talking about Thor, how much of what Thor is his hammer, and how much of it is him.
Well, right? Because even both he can lose access to Mjolnir, but he can also lose access to his godlike powers. He can actually lose it if he's not worthy. Like, but that's also more like would Odin be responsible? Like, because there's more
about his brother. What about Loki? He doesn't have the ability to lose his powers, his magic. Now, granted, he's half giant, so he's slightly different, but
right.
Still,
and he's also the god of mischief, so he's doing it. Yeah, again, that's why I'm like, okay, so that's probably not the best one. Sam and Dean Winchester, not a terrible ideology, but again, these are more representations of paladins by actions, not really paladins by abilities. I mean, Sam and Dean Winchester could do what they do regardless if they wanted to kill monsters, right?
Sure.
I mean, we've seen that, you know, Dean even retired for a little bit, you know, tried to get, you know, married and have a family, and still was killing monsters and hunting things in his backyard. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like, it's that ideology of they're not really gonna lose anything if they don't hunt monsters, like outside of like skills.
Yeah.
But they are representative of people who are motivated by a strong sense of like justice, or a strong sense of action.
Commitment. Yeah.
But that's not really like the same level of paladin, because then even Loki's a paladin, because he has a strong sense of chaos. Like, it's not just what you're motivated by, it's also to be a paladin, you know, a 5e paladin, you know, that's not dedicated to a deity. It has to be what fuels your abilities. If you lose sight of your objectives, or lose sight of your goals, or lose sight of your oath, your motivation, and your powers diminish, that would be more like a paladin.
So weirdly enough, coming back full circle to what brought us on this topic in the first place, you were getting ready to go and talk about paladins and clerics being like, because I feel like in High Point, specifically to your chart, paladins have divine magic.
Typically, because that is the more second edition mindset, and the more earlier
very
stages.
Much so.
Yes.
So yours is a lot less oath based and a lot more god based, right? And so paladins would be like a not necessarily a souped up version, but like a different path that you could take in the religious world.
And that's the whole point. Yeah, they are basically the where clerics are the utilities of the faith. The paladins are the arm, the fighting force. I mean, the whole point is, yeah, they basically have the division.
You got your tank and you got your support.
Yeah, and that's basically what it is. That's why I like that. But I do have options for things like oaths and oath base, and there's other ways that you can get magic. I prefer paladins still being
be in one of these other categories, or would that be a category of its own?
Like the current oath base.
Yeah,
that would most likely fall probably somewhere between wizard and warlock.
Okay,
because it's a little bit of. It's not really warlock, as in you're not really like being given it by like a deal, but it would probably be actually closest to wizard, because what you're doing is, well, no, because wizard's just more raw, but I would probably put that, I would probably have to put them maybe even under.
So if looking up your top little flow chart where it's got weave, source, access, and then it's got, what does that say, planes and then mantles?
Yeah.
Would it be akin to a mantle?
It's essentially, yeah. Essentially you're creating your own kind of mantle. So you probably could put it in the elementalists category, because it's more of a self-driven, a self-driving nature. It's more like your dedication to it created a power vacuum, and as long as that dedication exists, you can hold that power vacuum, and you are the power vacuum. So
right.
It's kind of like a want to be version of a mantle.
Got you.
It's temporary, because you don't have the ability to create a full mantle, but as long as you hold that to be true, you basically hold a power vacuum that the universe will fill for you.
Gotcha.
So I would probably fit that under my elementalist aspect, because again, it's under the communicating aspect, right? You're communicating with the magic, saying, hey, it's almost like you're a warlock of magic itself. It's like you're communicating directly with the weave and saying, hey,
exactly.
Weave, I need this one thing done. Will you give me just access to get this one thing done, right? So I would say, yeah, it's probably a blend of like warlock elementalist, but leaning more towards the elementalists.
Okay.
So I did look up some extra info here, and we actually were pretty on par. So Green Lantern, yes, can qualify technically as a paladin with an attuned item, because technically, if they doubt themselves or are overtaken by fear, they lose their power, or at least the ability to use the ring. So,
okay,
it still needs the ring, but that's a closer
again, I would kind of look at the ring as like the focus. It's like your lightweight, your holy symbol, or something to that effect. Like
but again, you need the ring just as much as you need the focus, right? They're definitely, you need both. You can't.
Yes.
But yeah, but still good option.
Okay, I like it. I like it still.
I don't know. I don't like that example. Shazam, I guess technically by some accounts, if he has to say Shazam with belief and conviction to be able to transform. So if there's any like self-doubt,
I did not realize that was theoretically a part of the.
Yeah, he has to basically know it's gonna work. So it's like, I guess if he's weak mentally or in any way doubts himself, maybe it won't happen.
Okay.
Let's see. No. Yeah, that's a great question. I'm having a hard time coming up with any more. But I think I honestly think that's a failure in the aspect of like, you can do that in a book, like Dresden did it, but that's because you have books and chapters and pages to do it in. And anything that's a comic, an anime, a manga, a movie, a TV show, you don't have as much. I mean, just the downside, right? You can't get as much in, or you have to sublimate it somehow, right?
Sure.
Like you can't have 2-3 pages on screen. That's either in the background or you have to do it in a couple frames, right? Like there's not a lot that you can really pull out.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just harder without a narrator, and maybe without like exposition. Maybe it's just harder to represent visually someone gaining their powers based off of a belief or based off of this, like, I'm going to get this. It's easier to, because we see that a lot of the times in terms of why people get their powers, but how they got their powers is usually someone comes to them, like a warlock situation where they're like, I've heard you, I will give you the powers. Or, you know, they go down the wrong alleyway and they go and buy, they go to the shop and buy an item, or they find something, but none of them really get imbued with it because I
know this is kind of a different scenario because of the setting, but what about Neo?
I was thinking about Neo earlier, and the hard part about that is technically there is only one of them. It's not like, yes, he needs to believe in order to do those things, but it's also like he was already pre-programmed to do it. Now, everybody else could be considered, I guess, but again, then again, like not anybody could, because anybody can be woken up. Like you can be taught to do any of that things. The things he can do is different, but it's also only him, right? Like he's basically Jesus. It's not like he could. Like,
but the question is,
it's not like not believing would lose his powers. It was once he understood them, it was just a fact of the world that he could. It's not so much a.
Now, I don't know how much you have seen or actually enjoyed the later ones. I liked it, but I'm partial to the series. But the fourth one, there's a fourth one. They re-brought it back.
Oh, that's right. There's a modern one where he basically doesn't fight like the entire fucking movie.
Well, kind of. It's like they do it weird. Like it's this whole homage where he is the creator of, you know, the Matrix video game or something like that. And he's been hopped up on blue pills the whole time, you know, because they plugged him back in or whatever. So
interesting.
Anyways, but in that movie, again, I don't know if you've seen it or you want to see it. But spoilers for that. In the end, he's not the one who gets the powers. Trinity is. So there is, because he's theoretically lost everything he could do. He doesn't remember. All that stuff has been like suppressed in him, and so like he's still Neo. He still can do some of the things, but specifically one of the biggest things that he could do that nobody else can do. Because they're teaching him to like jump from building to building and defy gravity and do the bullet time and all that stuff. But he can fly and nobody else can fly.
Yeah, that was like the big deal.
Yeah, and there was this one scene where he like jumps off of a building with like Trinity in the third one, and instead of him catching Trinity and flying and stopping her from falling, which is what he was trying to do, she catches him and stops him from falling. So weird. It's a very weird thing. So I feel like there's something about like what it is, but I do agree with what you're saying. Like it's not 100%.
Yeah.
It is just him, or at least there's only one person at a time. Like, so, there's only one person that can be this particular version of Paladin, like being the one, imagine it was a subclass of Paladin, but only one person in the world could be that subclass at a time.
That's interesting.
That would be a very.
But yeah, I think that's just the problem is like, it's easier to find like, like what Cart's doing in chat. Like all of these are good if you're only looking at what drives their actions, but that has nothing to do with what they can do. Judge Dredd is still a cop and still has all of his abilities. The Punisher, he's just a man on a mission and just has a junk car and is good at shooting guns. He doesn't get anything from his revenge outside of the motivation to go kill. Aragorn is still great as a ranger, but I don't see his need to get the ring to Mordor as why he can shoot better or why he is better at what he does. Dr. Doom, again, radiation. Like like I think that was his deal. Is he got like irradiated.
I swear he got it the same way the Fantastic Four got theirs.
Yeah, Sephiroth again, a genetically enhanced creature that was already a established soldier before he went nuts because he found out that he was a genetic baby, right? He was a test tube baby, and then he went nuts. But nothing really about his decision to go against Shinra manifested in power. All of that was already what he had. These are just what motivate them to do the actions that they did. But that to me isn't enough to make a paladin, because again, why isn't a blacksmith who's dedicated his life to blacksmithing, why isn't he a paladin? Was it because he doesn't fight? Like, is a paladin just somebody who has a giant need to do some one thing in life and they're willing to fight to do it? Because that's not enough, right? Anybody that can do something but then suddenly has a motivation to use that skill is not a paladin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just somebody with a motivation to use a skill that they had, right? It to me, a paladin, especially for the 5e version that we're talking about, this oath paladin, it has to come from the ideology that they didn't have power before they had a need, and that need is what fuels and is the source of their power. And without that need, or without the direction and without the focus of that need, they have no power. That's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Whether that's supernatural power or not isn't the point. It's the idea that power comes from their need, not from something else that decides it. It's literally, if they don't keep focused, they don't get it. Now, granted, here's another one that has no powers. Kind of a weird one, if you think about it. It's we'll call it a chaotic paladin. The Joker is a chaotic paladin. Because without Batman, specifically Batman, the Joker is powerless. Because while he talks about like all of the iterations, while the Joker's all about society and all of that, it's about the battle with Batman. Batman and his focus, his creativity comes with going against Batman. He's bored without Batman. Like, in a way, Batman is his fuel, and without Batman, Joker isn't Joker.
I mean, I definitely agree with that. Like, again, like you said, he doesn't have any powers, but what it is that he is, what it is that he does, like the types of effects that he has on the world is directly relational to his cat and mouse game.
It's his focus. It's the chaotic fact of he needs to play this game with Batman, and if he isn't, life isn't worth it. Like, life isn't, he's not creative, he's not a great criminal. Like, there's many renditions where when he's not directly going after Batman, he kind of is just meh, right?
Sure.
And anything he does that's spectacular has to involve, like, if you don't hear from him for a year and he has this giant elaborate plan, that plan has to involve Batman. He's not just going to sit back. He could have taken over the world 10 times over, but he doesn't. He does these elaborate plans to get Batman's attention. Everything that he does, everything that motivates him, the way that he gets his criminal behavior, is because so that's like a roundabout. So that's what I'm talking about, right? It's like, that's what we're looking for, is how do we look at a hero that only has their powers because of this need, and the focus of that need is what maintains the power. That's because, like, again, there are people that get powers, but if they don't follow the rules, they don't get to use the powers.
Yeah.
But that's not quite the same as a paladin. That's a 2e paladin. I'm giving you powers on a rule. But that's not the same, right? We're talking about someone who manifested powers out of nothing because there was a need for that power for them. And again, not like a deal or anything. It was just they have the ability to do it because they're the one doing it.
I have this picture in my mind as you're describing this, but it's so abstract that I can't place it, but I'm sure it's coming from something. It's almost like a silhouette of something in my memory, and I just need to bring out the color in it, bring out the details.
Who's that Pokemon?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how it feels. I'm like, there's some form of media, there's something that I'm looking at that's right there that like fits this so well, and I just can't think of it. Oh, I'm so upset. It'll probably come to me, who knows when, but yeah.
Now I'm thinking too. There's what was it? There was this anime that I remember. I'm trying to look for it by this keyword. But now I don't remember if it was anime or not. No, none of this is what I'm thinking. No, I can't.
You trying to discover your own Pokemon?
Yeah, I don't know much about Adventure Time, so I don't know if Finn is a good example. I don't know how that works. I don't know what I barely even vaguely understand the premise of what Adventure Time is.
So again, I know Finn's a human. I know most of the other characters are not. I don't know what world they actually exist in. Whether it's some like world of imagination, whether it's just like a parallel universe, whether Finn's actually from Earth, or what exactly is going on. As far as what Finn's actual abilities are, slash powers are, slash where does he get them from? I don't want to say it's just from his sword. I know a lot of what he gets from Jake, his little dog companion. He's some weird shapeshifter that can do all kinds of craziness.
Kurt says that it's Earth that was just destroyed and reformed because of the Ice King's original form, because Ice King used to be a scientist with his wife and some crazy shit.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Okay.
I do know that Adventure Time is supposed to be a lot deeper than people recognize. There's a couple of shows that are like that. There's this weird gem show that's also kind of like that too.
And I was even thinking of I forget what the anime name was, but the Quincy from what anime was that? It was the one dude. He was like the last of his kind. He gets the spirit arrow, like he could just like form like the bow and arrow out of like spirit energy. Like the whole point was he was supposed to be like of an ancient.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
people.
That isn't that
Is that Bleach?
Yu Yu Hakusho
Or is that Yu Yu
Bleach?
Hakusho? It's one of the, yeah, it's the whole point where I think it is Bleach, because the Quincy were supposed to take the soul side. They were supposed to replace them.
Yeah.
And he's the last one. So it's like his kind of is because like he didn't get it until he decided that he needed to, but then again, once he got the power, he could do it. So Samurai Jack, warrior bound by honor, but again, he can do what he wants. Like Samurai Jack doesn't like, he's a samurai. He's a swordsman. He doesn't have like, he didn't become a swordsman because he decided to make an oath. Like he didn't get extra powers. He just decides to when he uses it. Like again, like that's the hard thing is like there's too many examples of people who can decide how to use
oaths,
their ability.
but they're not what they are because of their oath.
Yeah. He did what? He just got. He's after a demon king, but like he was a samurai, so I don't.
He was a samurai before he got flung into the past.
Yeah. So it's like he was a swordsman. Yeah. So he's a swordsman. So it's like that's the idea. Is like just because that's his motivation doesn't mean that that's why he can do it.
Yeah.
Man, that's actually really like, that is interesting that they went that direction, because like on a literary sense, the idea of an oath makes like is really good, but that there really isn't like the representations there, like
feel like we
Shazam
need
going,
a-
you know, like calling forth something, but that's
Yeah.
also more barbarian, because the barbarian's really the only thing that makes a shift when calling forth their power. Like a paladin is just someone who, by the fact that they have a goal and they're following through with that goal, is what allows them to do things extra that
Yeah.
they wouldn't normally be able to do, right? Outside of just, you know, the idea of like fight or flight, you know what I mean?
Sure.
You know, like a mother saving her kid is not the same as a paladin, because that's situational. But a paladin being able to like continuously be able to, you know, lift a car is like the ideology, right? Like a
But
fighter,
as long as they are in line with whatever it is that they're doing.
yeah, because it's not so much the fact that they can fight, it's what do they get because they're following that path, not what they can do, not why they're doing with their own skills. But yeah, that really doesn't, like, most times I think in pop culture, it's just it's there's always an exchange. It's always from something or someone that they get their power. It doesn't really manifest on their own because they need to be able to do something, right? There's always, again, and I think the only thing I can think of is just you can't visually represent that easily. There's no entertaining way to represent someone.
I feel like we need a hashtag more paladins in media.
Right.
But it is a challenging thing to do. It is a challenging thing to feel like you, because I feel like that is kind of a thing that is pushed a little bit too hard, which is where it needs to be able to be visually stunning to be entertaining.
Yeah.
And I think there's too much push for big and flashy, and
that's why we're working a novel, but not on the screen or on a comic.
I think there are plenty of shows that can think about Death Note, right? Like Death Note is not an action-packed anime.
No.
But it is an amazing and wonderful anime to watch. And granted, they take some liberties with the music and writing down in the notebook and making certain scenes feel a little bit more exciting, but like there is a lot to be said about how you can represent non-spectacular things spectacularly.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's possible. You know, it might be challenging and not everyone's up for the challenge as much anymore, but I mean, God bless America. Like, how many anime are there about these different sports games?
I know, right? Yeah.
Like they got a volleyball.
There's an anime about cooking. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So again, some more for the chat. So Spawn and Ghost Rider, both warlocks. They both,
Ghost Rider,
they both have they both have a deity or at least some sort of powerful creature.
Yeah.
John Wick, again, just he's
John Wick,
assassin.
We went over that.
Just because, like, see, here's the problem. Again, this is why John Wick can't work as a paladin. John Wick is still John Wick whether you killed his dog or not.
Yes.
Like, that's the point. Killing his dog did not make him,
and I would say,
more of an assassin. You just gave him motivation.
Separation between him and Inigo Montoya, it's not really represented as much because he was a swordsman before, but I still feel like a lot of Inigo Montoya's journey and a lot of what he did was a pure result of his oath, and specifically in that end scene where
like
he was just not going down and just not going down, kept getting up. Like there's I mean, granted, it's a barbarian subclass, but it's like you basically every time you go down, like I can rage beyond death. Even if I go down to 0 hit points, it don't matter. I'm still raging. I'm still gonna get you. And that's kind of like the vibe I get from this, and that's the power. And again,
Mulan, not a paladin. Like again, you're a fighter with a cause. Like you know, John Wick and Mulan, you're fighters with a cause. Jack Sparrow, let's see, a trickster with an unbreakable personal code, unorthodox oak breaker. But again, he has nothing that comes about because he has a desire. Like he is still the same character. He doesn't have anything extra when he wants to go do something. He doesn't suddenly change because he wants something, right? Like
I would say the closest argument I can give for Jack Sparrow is there's a point where he kind of like gives up his compass and he kind of loses his way for a while, and just now granted he's always a drunk, right? But
Yeah.
he like ends up in the gutter and he stops embodying what I would say it means to be Jack Sparrow for a while. And then he goes on a journey to refine that, and then he eventually comes back in contact with
But
like
I wouldn't really call that an oath,
closest.
though. That's just more of an obsession, and then that's like a cursed item. You know what I mean? Like that's more like a cursed item at that point.
I mean,
because now you don't have it. Now shit bad happens, and you have to go get the item back.
yes, but I think the item is more kind of like Green Lantern's ring. Is almost like, for him, it's like a representation of his oath.
And that's why the Green Lantern's a poor example too, because it's like
Sure.
you're so tied to the item. Like that's the downside with a lot of these examples. Is there's something on the other side, right? You'll have to help me out with this last one from Cart, because I don't know anything. I haven't watched the movies, but Kung Fu Panda Po. I don't know anything about the movie, so I don't know how that represents.
Okay. So I haven't watched them in a while, and I haven't seen the most recent one, but in the first movie, there is this point where Poe is just a panda. He's screwing everything up. He doesn't really know how to do whatever it is that everybody else does. He's up with all these other kung fu masters. He's supposedly this chosen one, and he tries to do what they're doing, be a ninja like them, and he just keeps failing over and over and over and over again because he's just a panda. But it's the idea like comes in later. Like there's a scroll that he opens up that's empty. It's not really empty. It's made of this golden reflective paper, and so you like see your reflection in it. And the idea is like you got to believe in you. And like once he gets to this like realization, this recognition, like he becomes like he almost embodies what it means to be. He uses all the things that were screwing him up in the past, and he finds this like magical flow state with it, and becomes to be able to use all of those things to his advantage. But it's almost like the mentality is what allows it to click in your mind and like change it from I'm just this POS that's sitting here screwing everything up to
the only way I could try to I like the idea that's like, again, good literally aspect of how you overcome that, but how does that represent as an oath? Like in terms of long term, like once he learned those abilities, what keeps him from, like, is he just gonna have a bad day so he can't learn these new things? You know what I mean? Like what would cause the oath to retract that from him?
I would say that, okay, so this is just a real quick side note because I'm having it in my head. I think this happens to him. There's something that goes on in one of these movies where he loses his mojo, and I think they actually call it mojo in these movies. And it's because of, I think his like dad dies, or like something really sad happens, or maybe he's forced to like fight against one of his buddies or something like that, where he loses his mojo and he stops being able to be the kung fu panda that he always was, because he's no longer connected to that idea of, and maybe this is like a self-belief oath, or an oath to yourself, or an oath of like genuineness or trueness. I don't know how.
I see where you're going with that, but so he does lose his powers in a sense.
Yes, until he can refind himself. Like he was like, hey, I overcame this first. Hey, I'm a little goofy dude. I'm not as cool as the rest of you guys, but it's okay. I don't have to be because I'm this. And then
in a sense, I guess that I guess we could say that comes along the same lines as Peter Pan. You know, not a perfect representation of a paladin, but like probably the closest we're gonna get. Because again, Peter Pan has other external factors, but for a lot of it is kind of the mindset that you have to be in order to earn the abilities.
Sure.
So I guess, I guess it's kind of on like, if we're talking about like S tier is like a perfect 1-to-1.
Sure.
Peter Pan and Poe are probably like A tier, maybe.
Fair enough.
Like they're the best representations we got, but they're probably not exact. but they're really what we're,
I mean,
what we're getting from
I would put somebody like John Wick as like a C tier, low B tier at best, you know, because like they embody the motivation, but like their abilities are not on par with
I would put I would put John Wick in the movie, since he was in the idea of like being retired. Like I could see that being a C tier over Mulan would be like a D tier, because again, that's just, I mean, you're someone who learned how to be a soldier because you wanted to do the right thing. Like, congratulations, every other soldier in that army did the exact same thing you did. You just weren't allowed to, and that's the only reason why it's special. But you didn't make an oath to like suddenly become a soldier. You just proved you could already do that. You know what I mean? Like so it's like I would definitely put like John Wick above Mulan, but John Wick isn't a good representation of a paladin.
Sure.
It's just a pissed off dude who's really motivated, but that motivation doesn't allow him anything extra that he already couldn't do.
Yeah, I'd say the same is true for like somebody like a Judge Dredd.
Right. And again, the motivation also has to be, it doesn't have to be a perfect on all three of these tiers, but you got to think like the part about being an oath paladin is it's typically the origin, the source, and the maintenance of your abilities. As in, your oath is where you started the abilities, how you got them. By keeping the oath is how you maintain them, and by not keeping the oath is how you can lose them. So it's like if you're getting them and fueling them from the oath, and it's the maintenance of that oath that keeps them, that's where I have a hard time with some of these examples being anything higher than C tier, because a lot of these people can still maintain them regardless of their motivation. Their motivation is not key to these abilities, and that's the hard thing, is tying the fact that like what hero, like I'm trying to think of examples of like when have we seen a hero try to use their powers and couldn't because they weren't in the right situation, so therefore the powers were literally not available.
Yeah.
I know I've heard of it, I just can't think of it off the top of my head.
But wouldn't that be more like a mom lifting the car off of her? Like if having your powers is so situational that it only comes
situational as in when you try to use them for reasons that are like against your oath, right? Like the idea of like I try to use it in
specifically in contradiction
to my whole purpose. That's why I want to, like, if we could get that as a representation, that's kind of what I mean, right? Like Poe is a good example, Peter Pan's a good example of those. Not exactly one-to-one because they have some other things, but they are the closest we've gotten so far. Because the idea is that the power has to kind of come from, be fueled by, and maintenanced by the fact that you maintain some sort of ideology. Again, we say oath, but this can mean just a strong belief system, a goal, but it has to be from you, by you, and
you've seen the D&D movie, right? The newest one, the Thieves one.
Of course, yeah.
Is any of those characters a paladin? That one dude that kind of like, you remember the dude at the end, like he walks over the rock because he's just walking in a straight line, and I feel like he's
the dude trying to put the helmet on. He's a wizard,
sorcerer,
right? Or he's a sorcerer. Yeah. I don't think any of them were a paladin. Actually, I don't remember any of them actually being a paladin.
That guy, I don't remember what he is. I know he's got some magic. So not the guy putting on the helmet, but there's this other dude. He was an actor from Bridgerton. That's like the only other thing I know him in.
Gotcha.
Some black dude, and he was wearing like this like nice clad armor, but I know he's got some like magical abilities, so like
he might have been the paladin.
He might have been,
but I don't know if that's the oath paladin or more of the old school divine paladin.
Fair enough.
Especially with the armor, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
Magic. Again, Yuna though, like. Again, those kind of creatures, like those kind of people, though, they just because they have a motivation doesn't tie their motivation, like their powers and their abilities, to their motivation, right? Like that's the. I'm gonna probably think on this more. Like, this is gonna be something that's gonna stick with me for a while. Trying to think more about like how to properly represent an oath paladin in media, because it's so fascinating that you would usually think that media shifts D&D, but in this particular case, just trying to go away from the standard of like divine and religious ties, it's almost like they've created a whole new ideology that we haven't really thought of before, because it's self-created powers, self-created in D&D sense, self-created magic.
Yeah.
But
Self-created access to magic.
right. So it's like, how do you, without saying that you were just born with it and can do magic, right? Because that's just a sorcerer. But this is different, right? This is only tied to a decided lifestyle, right? Like you're only able to do these things because of the path you've chosen, not for any other reason, right? Not just because you're able to do them. Zenek? I don't know who that is. Zenk, a paladin played by Regé Jean Page. I don't know who that is. Oh, that's the guy in the movie.
Oh, that's from
Zenk is the character you were talking about, I believe. Is what
what his name
saying.
was? It's been a while since I've seen that movie then. Shoot.
Okay.
But he was a paladin. I'll have to see if I can't go back. I swear somebody made like D&D character sheets for all of those people and like their levels and like what they could do.
I would not
and all
be
that
surprised
stuff.
if someone did. That would be like that would make too much sense to do that.
I swear it was actually Wizards of the Coast and they made them available on like D&D Beyond or something like that. I'll have to see if I can look those up. But I'll be interested to see what his oath was to.
Yeah, no, I can't easily find anything. So this is gonna be a long one, or like this will be a deep dive for me. On my off hours for sure. 'Cause there's got to be more. It's just it's how do you properly represent that in order to search for it, right? Because like there's factors that you have to take into account, because again it's a unique ideology that I think works great in D&D, but now I think I'm going to find out that it's not that easy to represent. And again, I'm just going to go based on the idea that it's hard to represent visually.
And I do get that, which is again why I think it's so uncommon for us to see. But I still think it's possible.
We'll find something. We'll find
hashtag more paladins.
Yeah, more paladins in media.
In media. Oh yeah.
All right.
That was an unintended hiatus on paladins.
Yeah, well, I mean, it got us to the 2-hour mark, so at least I'm happy with that. I didn't have a topic for today, so at least we chit-chatted about that.
But weirdly, all of this started because we were talking about subletting subclasses and what it would look like to sublet across like
a cleric to a paladin.
And
because I want to treat that differently than other subclasses. Like I want to look like I want that one, other than to feel like, oh, you just got the same powers, but they manifested different. I want that one. No, you got the same powers, but because you're the warrior of like that deity.
But the question would be, would you be able to do that in 5th edition? Would you be able to sublet a paladin? Would any of our sublet like be able to qualify for a paladin?
Probably not, because paladins don't work that way anymore. Like,
yeah.
So that's why I would want to do it for like the 5th edition version, but yeah,
sure.
Like, it would be nice to have a. I don't know. I really liked the idea of having clerics and paladins as two different like faith-based type of characters. Like I liked having a faith-based warrior,
sure,
versus a faith-based like healer.
I think that is cool.
And now it kind of just feels like cleric has to just take up the mantle of everything if you want to do the faith-based. And again, not everyone's like chill with the faith-based aspect.
I know a lot of people are trying to like, yeah,
but you know, it's just, I don't know. I feel like it's either that or oaths have to be a little bit more. Like, so far I haven't really dug the oaths myself, but maybe we just haven't gotten into them enough yet.
Gotta
dive into them. Maybe we'll make a couple of our own oaths.
Yeah. I actually think that would be very cool.
Yeah. Also, I know that we also wanted to talk about updates, which we haven't really done yet. But some updates that I want to do moving forward, at least for the next couple months. I'd like to start bringing more of the, if we can, some of the topics that we do for community streams onto our Friday streams. So subletting subclasses, pop culture builds, and things of that sort. Bringing more of that to Friday streams, and maybe doing more of a rotation. So maybe like the first Friday of the month is like a history of, the next one's like subletting, then pop culture builds, and then maybe we do like a tangent day or some kind of free talk day, and then we go back and we cycle.
Gotcha.
Because that way we can get through. Because I mean, we really like these series, but we're not gonna get more builds out unless we do those series, right? And doing them just once a month on community streams isn't enough.
Okay.
So if we can cycle through those, doing one each a month plus the community stream, if they, if the community votes for it, we could be knocking these out 2 or 3 a month, and then really starting to get a handle on the content. Because once we have those, we can start, potentially working on the books.
Sure.
Working on the pamphlets, the things that you're building for, like once we have a good list, it's easier to be more confident in showing it off. Right now, we only have like 2 subclasses and 2 pop culture builds. It's like, I'd like to get a couple more under our belt to be like, hey, look at what we're doing here. So I think that's going to be my big thing, is just coming up with either a better schedule or at least just a rotation, so we can stick to these, because this is what we're good at.
I mean, I think it'll be good that we do it on Fridays. My only concern is sometimes we spend a while.
That's why I want to do them on Friday. That's why I want to do them on Fridays. And we'll be talking offline about this a little bit more. Obviously, we'll have to do more than just right now, but because the time frames are going to be changing soon. We're going to get that hour back, and so it's going to be lighter later.
Yeah.
I don't know if we wanted to do a longer stream again on Friday. Cut Friday to maybe 6 o'clock, and then flip flop it. Maybe do Mondays we start at 7, or 6, depending on, But yeah, we could do a little bit longer on Fridays, maybe. But yeah, and either that or trying to pick up some other stuff. But that would be, I would like to start getting more into these series over the next couple months, especially before my schedule changes, because I'd like to get some more content out before that happens. Because this summer things might be changing at my employment, and that's going to really screw up my schedule in a lot of bad ways. So I want to get some good content out before then.
Got you.
Because I would like to get content out before I deteriorate my mental quality. So
let's hope it doesn't get that bad.
I want to get some good content out before anything deteriorates. But the next 4 months are going to just be really interesting to see how things unfold. So I'd like to get some more stuff, under our belt, get used to some more things like on a regular basis. And if I spend the next couple months like focusing on this, and we get these locked in on Fridays, and we have reviews on Mondays, that'll take a lot of the stress off of me, because every week I'm either scrounging or researching,
trying
to do something for Fridays and make them entertaining and build up my rapport of info. But again, that can just sometimes, like this week, can just get away from me.
Which is why I kind of like having stuff in our pocket, like the subletting subclasses or the new image to item that we're doing, and like things like that. Like those things are, easy is the wrong word. It still takes obviously mental effort to like come up with creativity and
stuff.
But
it's our wheelhouse. That's what we're good at. And for me, I want those in our regular rotation, because it's nice doing them once a month, which is fine. But like you said, they each have their own way of going about them, and sometimes I'm not going to be able to do an imaged item. Like, I'm just not going to be that creative. Like today, I just wasn't there. But a pop culture build may have been easier, because it's more of finding what's relational instead of creating. So that's a lot easier to just be like, oh, what looks like that? What also does that ability? Or let's research what that character can actually do. That's different than having to literally think and balance and do all of that on the spot, right? So part of the reason why I want to just add those in is because I will be less stressed. It'll be easier for us to have that rotation. and produce that content. And then I think we just, again, the whole point of testing the series was to see if they would work. I think that they are working. And I think
Agreed.
we're not going to get better at them until we do them more.
Very much so.
So, you know, I love doing history ofs, but I don't know if right now, as entertaining as they are to do, I don't know if that's really the most popular of all of our Friday streams. So I want to kind of start limiting that to see if we get more Friday engagement. And again, as much as I like the community streams, they're not as big as I would like them either. You know, usually I would kind of like to think that a weekend stream would be the majority of the community, but you know, that's just how it is. So
I mean, I know a lot of people are doing stuff on weekends, so that might also be a part of it.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll have to work on that more. But I think we have some good series. I think that as we start to cycle those in, it'll be a lot better overall. I think people will get used to what we do, and I think the creation is where we need to be. I think making stuff is really where I think we're at our best.
Yeah,
and I think that's why
I agree.
I'm very grateful that we've come up with these series, and I want to keep making more. Like, I love the history of. I think that's super beneficial for both of us as well as the community. But I think the vast majority of the community prefers the creations.
I agree. I think, and not that any of our other content isn't good, but I feel like the content where we're creating stuff is the most attractive, because I feel like people feel like they can literally take something away from it.
Yeah.
They can literally go and be like, hey, I can use this in a game. I can go test this out. I can go use this, or I'm inspired by this, or whatever the case may be. So,
and amazingly enough, like, absolutely just blows my mind that we got this lucky. Is it does seem that when we create, that is not only when we get the most interaction and we seem to be the most entertaining, because that's when we get the biggest, you know, like audiences, but it's so I don't know how to put it into words, because it's like it's literally the opposite of what you would expect to happen, but it's like the thing that you would want to happen the most, right? Like, there are so many YouTube and stream channels out there, right? Like, there's so many people giving out information. It's so easy. So like, my history ofs are great.
Sure.
Not very many people do the breadth that we do, going from the original all the way to now and seeing how it's changed. Usually they just do like a comparison of how it used to be versus now, but they don't like walk through it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that that info is so easily available that for a lot of the times you just need to be a good voice. When you want to do informational stuff, you really just have to be a good voice. But I think for us, not to say that we don't have that, but the fact that I think we have an audience that prefers the creation, I think is genuinely the better and probably the more thankful thing we should be. Because how many people try to create and are just bad at it? Don't have creations that are good. So if we were better at giving out information than we were at creating, that would probably kind of say something about our stream. But the fact that people come here for what we create, not just to listen to us, I think that says something.
Yeah.
And I think we need to lean into that, which is why I want to start changing things up. I love history ofs. I love our deep dives. But not only should we follow, what the fans want, but we should be like, I want to lean into the fact that how many people don't get to create or don't get to do that because what they create isn't as accessible to people.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something that we should really lean into, that if we are an area that can show off creations as well as produce creations, I think that's the niche I prefer to be. The creating niche, not the educational niche.
I definitely agree. I think that it's nice that we have that content, if for no other reason than for our own archives and benefit, but being able to say, hey, we are a lot of people say they're content creators. Well, we are content creators. Like, we're creating actual content, not just stuff for people to watch and look at, but stuff for people to like take and use
Yeah.
and do stuff with. So
Tangibility
yes,
creation.
very much so. You know, like I'm super duper here for it. I love it myself. Like I haven't I so badly want to create my first NPC in I almost called it High Point in the Cineverse for with purely stuff from our community creations or purely stuff from our
Just like his
MGS
armor,
builds.
his weapon,
Yeah,
everything.
just like using one of these things like fully in a game in a session. Like I think that would be so absolutely wonderful.
You'll have to post the character sheet for everyone to see.
Oh yeah,
all the combos that you do.
I'm like, listen, this is some good stuff. So I'm very interested to see how it goes. But yeah.
Part, I wasn't sure what your question meant. What do you mean? Should we do a backrooms D&D overhaul? You mean like the backrooms, like take the backrooms and put that into D&D? Because I mean, I'm not sure how you would do that. It's kind of just like a endless maze, I guess.
I've had an idea for the backrooms being something akin to, you know, in the Matrix and the Keymaker opens
like
those back doors.
yeah.
Like, imagine if you could like open certain doors.
I mean, D&D has the astral plane.
Yes, but isn't the astral plane's less of like hallways and mazes and more of just like a plane of existence? Like
I mean, it's manifested differently. I mean, there's other like planar travels that act very much like, you know, but not really like the backrooms interactable, like where you're just going down random hallways. But I guess the thing that you have to ask yourself when you want to put that into a D&D game is like, to what end? Like, what is the experience and what's the end goal? Because if I just put you in a back rooms and you're just like, I go left, I'm like, it's more yellow hallway. I go right, it's more yellow hallway. Like, I could draw it out and you could like,
yes,
and we could have fun with it. But at the end of the day, to what end and what is the experience that you and I are going to get? Because
for me,
it's much more of a visual experience than it is a tabletop experience.
I feel like for me, it would be way more of like just a mental experience, because the way I kind of look at the back rooms and even the key makers, like hallways, like that whole thing, it's not really about genuinely navigating and like knowing where you're going. It's more like, hey, this is almost like every time you open this door, it's going to look different. There's no way to map it out. There's no way to like know exactly where what's going on in here. I would love it if there were like creatures in there, so like it's random encounters, but like imagine just doing like a survival check. Like the way I kind of would imagine something like this, and this is just coming to me now, but like I would roll, and instead of setting a DC, I would set like a closeness to a random number on the dice. So it's like, you could want low, you could want high this time, who knows? I'll set the DC beforehand, you'll roll, and the closer you get to it, the faster you'll get to your destination. The further you are from it, but I mean, I guess, and then potential random encounters while you're down there.
Isn't that just a dungeon?
I mean, sure, it's sure, but like it's a different way to do travel. Like imagine you want to go.
I get the mechanic. I'm talking about just like the back rooms though. Like if you're gonna do like a backroom setting and then throw encounters in there, it's kind of like a dungeon. Like it realistically is just dungeon crawl.
Sure. And
that's why I'm like, I think I'm just missing the idea of like, what is adding the flavor of the back rooms, adding to the experience outside of a visual of telling everybody that's where they are.
I would say, number one, it's a weird way. I don't want to say fast travel, but kind of fast travel to get from one point to another, not necessarily using teleportation, not necessarily using, you know, like flight or just like slogging through a bunch of hexes or whatever the case may be. Also, you could potentially have encounters in there that aren't just combat encounters, or you could have creatures in there that you wouldn't be able to find anywhere else. So
I swear that's the astral plane. Like honestly, I feel like that's exactly what the astral plane accomplishes.
I don't know enough about the astral plane to know that,
because traveling in the astral plane is different. Like there's a whole mechanism to traveling.
Sure.
Combat's different. There are creatures that live there. There are encounters you can have.
I think the astral plane though, I think of like you floating around in outer space. And it's
sometimes that's how it's represented, but that's the idea, is like whether you're floating around or walking, all the things you mentioned though can all happen in the astral plane. Like
sure.
So that's what I'm saying.
But I also don't feel like it's necessarily.
But you can also travel faster. Like you can go to the astral plane, travel a little bit, and then be miles from the real world location. So it also is like that same idea of you can use the astral plane to do all of those things. So I just that's like why for me it's hard to understand. Like for me, the backrooms is a cool visual thing, but it doesn't really like accomplish anything outside of being like the creepypasta factor. Like it's a place you don't want to be and can't get out of, but that's, I don't know how good of a storytelling device that is, unless it's more of a
Sure.
like you do it for the cinematic of one
And
character drops
maybe the
in
backrooms
there.
is in the astral plane. Maybe that's just what it is. It's like, hey, there's this portion or section of the astral planes
that's just
like,
more tangible.
That's like, this is what I just finished watching the last episode of the most recent what's it called, Demon Slayer season. And there is this one demon that plays this weird little guitar, and every time they like hit a note on it, they're like open these doors and this portal to this other realm. Like if you, what was that one movie where like the stairs kind of go up sideways and it's like you're sometimes walking,
like an Escher painting.
Yeah. So like it's that idea where like everything's just like chaotic and all over the place.
So yeah, you could just say like the, you know, parts of the astral plane that are closest to physical planes, like the material plane, manifest differently. And you could easily say that, you know, in certain parts. Yeah, I like that. Actually, I like that a lot better.
Like there's nothing saying that it has to be its own entity, but it's just like how you can represent that or demonstrate that, you know.
Again, I'm always just looking for, you know, if something's already in there, is it just because you want the more modern reference? Like,
sure,
I don't want the astral plane, I want the back rooms. But at that point, is it just for the, are you just trying to paint a better picture in their head so you don't have to do it, right? Are you just saying, hey, back rooms, we all know what we're looking at?
I mean,
okay, let's go.
For me, it's just because it's the Cineverse and I want everything. You're right.
Yeah.
Like I love stealing bits of media. I love things that people can recognize. I love the, oh, I know what the heck that is, you know, even if it manifests itself a little bit differently. So yeah, I'm not mad at it.
Yeah. Bert has another question. What are we gonna do when tech becomes advanced enough that you can have advanced VR where you can basically play your D&D, but it's manifest? I would probably be a billionaire because I could probably do remote games perfectly and all my rules and everything would be done. I'd probably have my like, honestly, I would probably open up High Point if I could. If there was any feasible way that I could put High Point in VR, I would. Like, if I could manifest High Point to a T, I would, and it would make millions. I mean, it would literally be the best Skyrim game you could ever think of. It would be better than Skyrim in every possible way. Like, think about everything you love about Skyrim, and so its High Point's so much better. You know what I mean? Like, it's to that extent of like, it would like do I think I could
be able to walk into a store and like see an NPC just like freaking hanging out there?
Oh yeah, well, and that's what I'm saying. It's like, do I think I could do better a job than like Wizards of the Coast? Like, in reality, no. They have the money, the time, the employees. But like, if we were just to put their D&D versus mine, I think theirs would be more robust and rich in terms of like, you have a lot of things to expect. Like, you know, the more you know about D&D and the lore, the more they'd have. But in terms of the actual tangibility and playing it, I think High Point would be so much more fun. D&D would be more familiar, and it would have all the things that you would expect, but I think D&D would still feel limited. Like, if you were to take exactly as is versus how High Point runs, I think High Point would feel much more like playing GTA than it would feel like playing D&D. In terms of like,
I agree.
Like,
I agree.
The ideology behind, you have everything D&D, but it's GTA.
Yeah.
But every building, every person,
like, you still got missions and stuff like that, but at the same time, like, you can do whatever the heck you want.
And the missions do go away. Like, the missions don't just stay there forever.
Yeah.
It's like it would be a few different games like all piled on. But if I could fucking do that, like, it would be insanity. Like, so being able to run like multiple games at a time, because again, if you have a system that can run it and all I have to do is kind of make bigger decisions, I could run like 4 games, 5 games at a time and just be like, oh, they're in a battle, I can walk away and let the battle pursue, because I don't need to control the battle. You know what I mean? Like, if you have just the basics of everything already programmed, I just have to, you know, monitor what. And that's the other thing too with High Point. It's like, for the most part, it would just need computing power to have everybody's actions.
The only question is, how would you manage? I feel like it'd be easy enough to get some like people could like hook up cameras to them like rolling dice IRL.
Yep.
And like be able to like see what
yeah,
you rolled and things like that. That way you can still roll your IRL dice and you don't have to roll digital dice, but you can still do it all online.
Oh my god, at that point we would have like dice that are physical, but they are also hooked to the game. So you feel them, you roll them, but you also see them in game.
It'll be imagine.
I mean, we already have other peripherals, so like, why can't you just make dice that?
I'm surprised somebody hasn't created that already, because all you'd really need
dice,
is like a little thing inside, like because they pour the resin in the dice. Just put a little thing inside that shows like that's oriented exactly.
Well, and they could just be blank. They could just be like, again, makeshift dice. They're just the shapes, but the game just does the random roll, but you're still physically rolling them, right? So there's no so if you were to look outside the game, they're blank, like they're just like shapes.
They don't have
But when you roll them in the game and it feels the tumble, the game processes the roll and then decides, right?
So wild.
So it would just be that it would just literally be that easy. Like you could easily do that if you wanted to incorporate real rolls. You would just have the fake dice there, and yeah, like I'd be all about it. I would be all fucking about it. Like honestly, if I could make a living off of just DMing High Point, that would be amazing. I don't know how often I don't know if I could do that daily. You know what I mean? But like, if I legit could get paid to just, I love gaming in High Point so much. Like if I could get paid, if people would actually give me money to be their DM.
People do that.
Oh yeah, but the problem is like you got to realize though, the downside for me though is people don't want to play money on like something they don't understand, right? If you're gonna pay money and you have like, if you don't know anything about D&D, it may be fine, but if you're gonna pay money and you know anything about D&D, you're not gonna want to relearn anything. You're not gonna want it to be what you don't like. You're not gonna want any of your expectations not met.
Yes.
And the problem is in High Point, there's a big learning curve.
And see, that's the thing, is it's like you would have to, and this is kind of goes back to the conversation we were having about some of the players that I had in my realm. You would have to be saying, I want to pay for that experience.
Yes. You have to know, you either have to know what you're getting into, be absolutely new and have no expectations, or want something that's not the standard. Like you have to seek me 100%. Out. Like I am not the person that you would come across and be like, oh, sure, you're a DM, I'll pay you. Like, no, if you've played D&D before and you just want a new DM, do not come to me, because you are not going to have fun. Like you either need to be brand new to the game or want something different, because I wouldn't be able to give them the standard static gameplay. And, again, paying, most people like to do module, like the, start end kind of thing. So yeah, it would just be, I would love to do it. I just don't know who would actually long-term like want to justify it. So.
Sure. I definitely think that the right people are out there, that they do exist. I think one of the hardest things about all of D&D is not only finding the right people, but connecting those people. Yes. And so I think something like this kind of a platform, doing it over VR, would help incredibly for that. But then again, you got time zones and bullshit. Like, probably Leopard jumping in here at like 7 in the morning for them, so.
Oh, but that would be awesome. If I could live in my realm, I would. If there was like one of those things where, before you die, you could upload yourself to anything. I'd be like, if you could figure out all of High Point and program it and then just put me in there, let's go. I'll spend eternity in High Point.
That'd be so wild.
I'd be happy as a clam.
That'd be so wild. But if you were to go into High Point, imagine you just start off as a commoner and then you have to like.
But do I have all the knowledge of High Point?
Knowledge?
I don't, because the thing is, like, obviously if I went there I'd want to be Zenith, but if I couldn't be Zenith and I just had to start as a level 1 adventurer, but do I have my knowledge of High Point? Because if I have my knowledge of High Point, not only do I have favors I can call in,
that's cheat codes.
I'm the fucking creator. Yes, I have cheat codes. If I can't be my own character, you're goddamn right I'm going in with pre-knowledge. I'm going in with metadata. Because first of all, just knowing how everything works would be so just absolutely beneficial. But at the same time, being able to know people's names and like shit about them could be very beneficial in getting favors and getting some special treatment. Knowing where to go, how to get to places, like
Yeah.
like literally, if I could be dropped into High Point, like it probably wouldn't take me very long to establish. Depending on where and how and other things. But
If you this is an interesting question, but like, let me ask you this: do you have many NPCs that are level 5 or lower?
oh yeah, tons.
Okay. If you had to choose an NPC that was level 5 or lower and only have the knowledge that they have, instead of all of Vortex's knowledge, you have their knowledge. Do you think there's an NPC that you can choose that would get you where you think you need to be? Or
I mean, there's a long enough list that I'm sure, one of them will have a path that leads somewhere.
but
But I mean, yeah, there's not really one specifically that
That stands out,
I would
that's
call
like-
out and be like, that's the one I would like. Because I mean, because there's one for everything, right? Like that's the downside.
Sure.
There's not like one specific NPC at that low of a level that's just like, oh no, that's the life I want. You know what I mean? Like, because that's basically saying like, if I just had to live in my D&D world, just in general, then that's kind of just more of a, well, what kind of life do I want to live?
sure.
And what do I think my best chances are? Like, I wouldn't be a barbarian or anything else like that in my own world. Like, I know how dangerous it is. Like, I'm most likely learning magic. Like guaranteed, I'm most likely gonna. If I have the choice, I'd probably be like a sorcerer, or a warlock, because friends in high places.
Sure.
I don't have enough time to be a wizard. Like, I just don't have the mental fortitude to learn it. So I wouldn't be a wizard. I'd have to be a sorcerer, a warlock, or honestly, I'd probably be a psionicist, actually. 100%. Now that I think about it, I'd be a psionicist.
Yeah, that's fair. That's very fair.
That or a bard. Bard would be my second choice.
I
As long as I got my special bard, as long as I became an
really
actual
like
true bard.
psionicist, but truly, and this is, you and I will hopefully eventually finish hashing out some benders, but I genuinely think I would want to be a bender.
Could be, yeah.
Like especially if you can get to the point where you can mix / combine different bending styles and stuff like that.
Yeah, but for me, I think with the psionicist, because of everything it can do, especially with second edition,
you can do all kinds of things.
well, and without like ever lifting a finger, like I could live in the shadows. I could live any life I wanted and have any other life I wanted. And the ability, I just think with my mental health, I'd love to have that much control over my mind.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So
Yep.
there's a lot of things about a psionicist that are appealing to someone like me. So I think, yeah, I would definitely be a psionicist. And my second choice, barring that, I'd probably go bard with the specialty. Because at that point, just being able to have
Okay, what if because now we're
artificer, maybe an artificer, but probably
I'm thinking like instead of picking like an NPC, you would have to create a character, like a level 1 character in your world.
that's kind of what I'm like thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I would go psionicist, bard, and then maybe artificer third. Those are my top 3 choices in that order.
Okay.
Hell, I might even multi-class, because again, I don't have to be the most powerful. I just have to be clever enough. So
Sure.
a psionicist,
Sure.
bard, artificer in High Point.
No, would your ultimate goal be to ascend?
Oh yeah, always. If I knew I could, I would. Like, that would be my only goal. 100%. My only goal. If I got into High Point and the only knowledge I could take is knowing I could ascend, that would be my only life goal. Why not? If you had the knowledge that you could, I don't know how to, but if you just knew that it could be possible to become a god, why would you not?
Specifically because, for me, of all of the responsibility that comes with it. Because yes, the power is phenomenal and amazing, but
For me, it's not even the power, it's the immortality.
you have a job now. Like, I would love to be like one of those like lower level demigods. Like, let me get to
Well,
this.
that's what we're talking about with Ascension. With Ascension, you don't have to become like a
god of something.
No, you just. But we're talking about ascending into immortality. If I knew I could, I would. I think.
Oh,
like
that,
the
yes.
idea of attaining immortality
So
is just
you have to ascend to get to that point. So like when you hit level 20, clearly you're still mortal, but like you're on like the cusps of
After level 20, you usually need to do something, gain notoriety, gain the opportunity, or be put in a position to be able to ascend. And then once you ascend, you become an immortal. And then from immortal, you kind of have some different choices. And then one of the choices you can make will eventually lead you into the lower tier of gods, which are the lesser gods. And then eventually you get into the higher tier of gods, which are those that actually have purpose. And
the lesser gods, is that like Hercules type stuff? Or is it more like a god of something like super specific?
No, so they don't. So the lesser gods are basically like immortals are basically just that. They are immortals with not really power per se, like not like deity like power, but they are immortal and for the most part have a few things that they can do, but they're not really gods.
Sure.
Above that, a god is something that actually has like essentially self-generating power. Something that is actually like fulfilled by them. And you know, if you have followers or if you have any sort of like sustainment in the mortal world, it enhances. But that power is enough for you to create things, so you can actually like manifest and create. More immortals can't. Mortals can't just manifest stuff. Lesser gods can, but to a lesser extent. But their powers are limited. How much they can use up is limited. And then above that, the higher tiers, the ones that actually need followers in order to like say, you know, basically stay sustained. They have responsibilities, they have spheres of influence, and within those spheres of influence, their powers are greatly exaggerated outside of what a normal. So all gods have like a base level of godlike power, but within their sphere of influence, it, you know, basically goes to infinite. So two gods, yes, like you have two gods of equal power, say, be able to create a planet. They both have enough energy to just create a planet. But when it comes to doing things within their spheres of influence, once there's overlap, whoever goes into the other person's territory is way out of balance. So yes, you can create a planet and so can I, but once you step into my world and fuck with what I'm responsible for, you basically have no power compared to me.
Knowing High Point the way you do, if you did have your knowledge in High Point, how long do you think it would take you to take on a mantle, any mantle?
If I knew everything I know?
If you know everything you know now, could you do it like instantly? Could
Most
you just
likely.
be like, hey, I'm this mantle now? And like, if you did that, would your level / power increase to the point in which would embody that mantle?
Well, and again, this is where a lot of what ifs come in, right? If I were to be the representative of a level 1 character in my realm, I'd have to be very picky about what mantle I would go after, because some mantles would literally eat me alive.
Sure.
Just too much power for my body to handle. But obtaining a mantle, I'd probably be able to do very quickly, just with my knowledge of how mantles work. And again, with all of the knowledge of High Point at my disposal, it would be, I mean, pretty much if you just literally right now dropped me into High Point and I just knew instantly I was in High Point, you got to realize that with the knowledge I have now, I would just be basically making the equivalent of phone calls instantaneously. Zenith would know I'm here. Like every saint would know I'm here.
Sure.
And they'd know who I am. Like I'd basically be able to be like, Zenith, here's literally everything. You know who I am. Let's talk. Like I again, with my knowledge, it's kind of cheaty, right? Like outside of God cheats, and if I didn't have the ability to do anything, but if I had my knowledge, there's an instant prayer to every saint. Just here's who I am. Here's everything about you and your entire, like, imagine that you're a god of like, you,
and I'm telling you your backstory.
You're one of the first things, and out of nowhere, you get a level 1 mortal telling you like your deepest, darkest secrets, and they're like, by the way, I know everything. So one way or another, I'm probably not going to get touched, because if I could do that within seconds of arriving, I'd also basically make contingencies with everybody of, hey, if I die, here's a piece of knowledge you're not allowed to have, but it will unlock to you if I do die. And I basically tell all of them, if you kill me, all of your secrets are everybody's. So I'm basically a walking nuke. Don't touch me. And then after that, it's just deciding who's going to help me and who do I want to help me. But okay, but again, stepping even further from that, if I just knew the basics of High Point, but I didn't have special treatment.
Sure.
Let's say they didn't recognize me as the creator. Essentially, most likely what I would end up doing is probably following a some sort of path of mantle hierarchy. Because mantles are a great source of power early on. I'd take on various levels of mantles until I could work my way up to having something worthy of power.
Okay.
If I at least had the bare knowledge of High Point and how it works, right? Just like you, if you could metagame, if I could fully let you metagame a character from level 1, it would not take you long to know the ins and outs. You know enough about the ins and outs of High Point to level up fast, to get a lot of XP, knowing how to talk to people. You would kind of be able to know the ins and outs to, at this point, you wouldn't take forever if you really just wanted to get things going and we didn't want to do all the talking.
Sure.
But that's kind of where I would have a benefit, is I would just know what to go after at what point, who to manipulate, how to manipulate them, and having that background knowledge just makes sure that I know where to go. But outside of that, if I'm not recognized as that person, I would still have to have some sort of skill sets until I was able to like utilize those. Because, you know, with power still comes responsibility. I could take on a mantle, but I still have to be able to use it. So it's not just like being given mantle makes me super powerful. You know, if I take on a mantle that is aggressive, or, you know, a mantle of like, you know, a physical prowess, I'm going to have to use it. And I'm not a very physical person. So I probably shouldn't take on a mantle that's going to cause me to be like physically active.
Sure.
Because I'm not going to be able to, you know, represent it, right?
Yeah.
But if I can take on a mantle of thought and intelligence and of magic, and I could start learning it, and then once I learn it, I can take on a higher level mantle and just keep fueling, you know, refueling, you know, whatever abilities are mine. That's why I would probably be sorceress or psionicist or a druid, something that I already have an akin to that would also tie me to magic. Because you notice I'm only choosing things that have magic based.
Yeah.
Going to High Point, I'm not going to do anything other than magic.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Like magic is it's the guaranteed way to survive. Like learning a sword ain't going to help me survive in High Point. Magic can basically help me do anything. You know, prestidigitation by itself can help you survive in almost any climate. So, magic, 100%. I'm learning magic in one way or the other. I'm taking on low level mantles until I can get bigger ones, and I'm just abusing any system that I would know how to abuse.
Okay, fair enough.
I did see that we had a this or that in chat from Soul. Become a god of something, being followed by a paladin or cleric. So become a god. So become a god and have a paladin or a cleric, or become a warlock patron and have a warlock. So become a god with paladins and clerics, or become a patron with warlocks. God with God 100%. Because even though the patrons tend to be creatures of great power and usually ancient creatures, more often than not, they're not more powerful than the gods.
Yes,
they're just different.
See, I'm going back to you got a lot of jobs and responsibilities and things to manage. Although I will say, I've played with some warlocks. Some of these warlocks are freaking ornery. Like they. Like you out here fighting with them. You're out here trying to convince them to like follow.
Well, you also got to think too. Most of these creatures, they're having to make deals because they can't go against gods themselves, and they need their own like things. Basically, they can't come to the mortal world to do things, right? So kind of like with gods, they can't directly interfere, but they also don't necessarily have like the big society gods do either. So they're kind of also the ones lurking in the shadows and trying to do things subvertly. So yeah, I would say that from what I understand, I would just absolutely be a deity over a patron.
I'm torn. I feel like I want to be a patron, but I feel like that also might be more trouble than it's worth.
Look at it this way.
Because like I like the idea of like, you know how there's like a sensei and an apprentice. Like I like that one-to-one relationship way more than I like having like this horde
I would
of...
equate it like this. I'd much rather be a CEO than a landlord. That's how I look at it. I'd much rather be the CEO than the landlord. I got plenty of people under me, and yeah, I got a big business to run, but the business runs itself for the most part. As long as everything's running correctly, the business runs itself. Being a warlock, it's like being a landlord. You got to deal with the body. You got to deal with the people. You got to deal with the property. You got to deal with the rents.
As of the CEO's life is set up ahead of time, because
that just depends on the deity and how good you are at structuring.
No, like that's what I'm saying. Like before I got there, like if it was set up before I got there and all I'm doing is filling in the role when it comes to this or that, I would probably choose God. But if it's the other way around, because I can choose how complex my landlordism is, whether I'm dealing with all those extra stuff or if I focus just down to a singular aspect.
True.
So
but you can only own so many properties.
I only want one. That's the whole point. I only want one. I don't want a bunch. I want one. I want one. It's the easiest.
See, I want more because like the more things I can do with more of them.
See, I'm a simple kind of man. Like I want the simple things in life. All right. I don't need all of it. All right. Just give me a little bit.
Oh, and this would be in our respective campaigns. So in the Cineverse, what would you be?
Oh.
So for you, it's specifically for me in High Point, I would be a deity. For you in the Cineverse, which one would you be? A deity or a patron?
Any deity?
I don't know. You tell us.
Shit. Yeah, gods work a little bit differently in the Cineverse. So I would definitely be a god. And yeah, no, I would 100% be a god if it was in the Cineverse.
Yeah, because yours is way less structured, so yours is probably a lot more free to just.
There is structure, but there doesn't have to be. Right? It's like depending upon what your sphere of influence is, depends on the complexity of the structure that you are involved with.
Makes sense,
right? So that's why I said any god. If I could just be any, okay,
yeah,
okay,
that
yeah,
makes sense.
I'm here for it. It kind of feels, yeah, it kind of feels like you remember was that show called we've referenced it before, was it The Sandman?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It kind of feels like that, although those in your realm are more like mantles rather than gods. But
yeah,
still.
the Eternals, but still, yeah. I like that though. It's good questions. Yeah,
I like that a lot.
But I mean, how many people wouldn't want to live in their D&D world? But I guess it depends on how enriched it is. Like for me, there's no end to mine. Like,
yeah,
being able to just go do a different planet, just that simple fact of like there is no end. Like I'd be very happy. Oh, and then of course once I became immortal, getting to the anomaly.
Heck,
getting to meet the Blue Adept.
Yes.
Like legit getting to meet the Blue Adept. Like for real. I would hella become an immortal just to get to the anomaly. Like abso-fucking, and again, just knowledge of the anomaly would advance me so far.
Absolutely wild.
Shit, in High Point itself, honestly, if just me dropped into High Point, while I would want to be a psionicist, I'd probably might be better as an artificer, just understanding how I understand High Point and magic, but also how I like to tinker with it and how I like to put things together. I'd probably be an amazing artificer putting new like magical things together. Could use the rest. We'll be right back.
Actually, that's very fair. See, these are such good questions. Getting me thinking about my realm. Like I've been honestly gaming in my realm a little bit more recently, because I have another group that we kind of like ping pong back and forth between who's DMing every so often. And I've been DMing recently for the past couple of weeks, and again, DMing for adults, like I have to be way more in tune with what's actually happening in the realm than I do with some of the students that I DM for. So it's definitely getting me a lot deeper into what's happening than anything else. So I'm super here for it. I'm super here for it. Oof, 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 oof. Yeah. Gosh, I my world is so different. Like, genuinely, one of these days I'm gonna actually get to sit down and try and, like, similarly to how you have like the full layout and history of, like, one of these days I will actually manifest what all of that looks like, because I have the seed for it, but it has not flowered yet, if that makes sense. So
well, you have your your live stream channel. One of these days you can just do what I did and just do a couple of episodes on just the origins of the Cineverse, and just talk.
Not, I mean, that's not a bad idea.
That's the way that I did it. Was I didn't know where to start, so I just started talking, and I started from, you know, the days before the old, you know, in the old Empire, before you know, before he was Zenith, and I had to tell the story. I had to tell the story from where it began. So
I will say, unlike you, there is so much to my realm that is even lost to me, which sucks.
That happens, though. That does happen a lot.
Yeah, it is hard. Like, my original paperwork, kind of like your old battle binder, it was literally stolen from me. It was stolen out of my car. I was that's devastating. So upsetting. Like, all of my DM dice, they was gifted to me by my players, like all of my books, all the artwork. Sadness, Everdeen. It's absolutely terrible. But golly.
Yeah, that's and so mine wasn't a fit. Well, I don't say mine was stolen, but I mean, steal has a lot of different definitions.
Yes.
So I mean, did the person know that they had it? Yeah. Did they intentionally keep it? Yeah. Did they maliciously keep it? I don't know. But, you know, it is unfortunate. Like, I am so fortunate that I have enough memory. There are just a handful of things. Like, honestly, you know what the number one thing that I regret the most losing in that binder up to this point? Like, there was some great, like, you know, I'd love to just look at my old character sheet and just kind of remember, like, what I was able to do with my character back when it was mortal. Like,
sure,
there's some things I'm interested in, but like nothing I need tangibly, because, you know, that's different world, different universe. Like, there's nothing really I need from that book outside of memories, except there's 2 pages, very specifically 2 pages that I wish I could get back. One is my very original drawing of Zenith's holy symbol. His pyramid, his temple, and his holy symbol. Like, it was actually fully drawn out on a whole sheet of paper. So wow. I know I've drawn it and I know what it looks like, but I would love, because it was really nicely drawn.
Yeah.
So I would love to get that back. And 2, the other is the page with all of the Zenith's basically like religion, like all of the aspects, everything written out, you know, the ethos, the motto, the requirements, everything about what Zenith's following was about was just written on that page. So it's like, if I could have those 2 pages back, just so I knew 100% that what I originally created is there.
Yeah.
Because everything else is literally like, there are notes about gaming sessions, which I would be cool to reread. There's my old character sheet, which was one that my old DM had actually made himself. So it's like, there's nothing element I need. I'm not gonna like have any of those items in High Point. Like, there's nothing there that I need for my gameplay. It's just, I would just love to see what I had originally created when I created Zenith, and have that drawing. but it's just more of just like the nostalgia of just going back through and just being just like looking at what I actually kept, how I did notes. You know what I mean? Like that was like 8 years straight of gaming just in that binder. And I'm like, that's just gone.
Yeah.
It's just fucking
Yeah.
But
it's rough.
You move on, you know?
Fair enough.
We create
Fair
our
enough.
own. Because that's the
Indeed.
whole point. And now look where High Point is. 10 years later, and
Absolutely beautiful.
look where High Point is. Look what we're doing with it.
We're doing good shit. We're doing good shit, no doubt. 100%.
You know, who gets to say that they made a creation like this and then gets to share it, right? Like, you know, there's been plenty of people that I've talked to in the past, and they've built stuff. We know people in the audience who've built stuff, and I know people who like have talked about it, but very few of them ever like want to do more than just like their gaming sessions. Like very few of them I've ever heard like say like they want to like do something with it. And those that have like, oh, I want to create my own module or create my own book or submit it to Wizards of the Coast or whatever. It's like there's like two categories of those people. Either that's the pipe dream category where it's like sure you will. You know, you've gotten like 2 things created, but you're on your way. Like, you know, it's more like it's a great idea, but they're not putting any actual effort into building it up.
Sure.
And the other crowd is I don't know what the title is, but the other crowd that I've seen is the ones that like they have a lot written, they have a lot down. You know, you've seen them do stuff, they play all the time, they have everything ready to go. But they always end up saying like, oh yeah, what you know, I'm gonna put it all into a book one day. And it's like, so when? Like you have it already, but you end up being too protective over it. You know what I mean? Like, like there's not a lot of people who actually want to take it that next step and make it very universal. But those that say that they do, either it's just an idea that's never going to go anywhere because they don't actually produce, or those that do produce are way too protective. And they just, at the end of the day, they're never going to share it. They're never going to actually let their creation be someone else's. And I'm like, you know, because there's you know, like there's a lot of people who's like, what do you think that process is going to be? You know, like I never had the idea of High Point being public, but now that we're going to do the ADMG, it's kind of is going to be public, but not like in a modulistic way. But I'm going to put a lot of what I do as a DM in there because I don't mind other people using it. I'm not protective of how I DM. I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? I don't care if you hear something about High Point and then start using it. Like that doesn't bother me because it doesn't change anything about how my game works. You know what I mean? I'm not jealous of other people doing what I do better, and I'm not worried about them stealing my idea. Like if you can't come up with it on your own, okay, that's fine. Half of my ideas are inspired by other things anyway. Like that's the whole point. So
100%.
You know, but it is funny that those that I have seen succeed, Critical Role and the like, this is where they started. They just started sharing, and then they found 100%. People who wanted to learn more, right? That's why I say I want to lean into the creation, because if that's where our audience wants, not only is that just what they want, but it's also like that's the best case scenario, right? Like it would have been great to just have some good voices and people be like, yeah, I like listening to those guys. They have some good information. But people coming in and being like, what are you creating? I want to like actually desiring that. I think that's the best case scenario that we could have asked for. Yeah. And there's no reason why we shouldn't lean into it. Because if we don't, then we're just talking. Like, and I don't mean just talking as in like a stream, but like we're not actually serious about
I'll talk no action type deal.
Yeah. Like the fact is, you know, that's why I wanted to talk about the origins of High Point and how I do things. Talk about my magic and talk, you know, do builds and do more than just game, because it is nice to game and hear the story, but what can you do with that? Like realistically, what can you do listening to Critical Role outside of maybe be inspired to do that same thing or something similar, but you're not really learning anything from listening to that, right? You're not, you know, until they make a module that you can go play and then it's just familiar.
I will say there are techniques that I see in other people's games that I enjoy.
But that's, again, I would argue that that's fine, but that's, again, you can get that from other players, but I'm talking about like Critical Role as a setting, listening through that outside of like the people and what they do. But like, that's not something that you're not going to DM in their
Yes,
setting
very
unless
much
they
so.
build a module. And that's what I mean is like, I don't mind. Like, I would love to share it. But over the years, the last 2 years that I've been trying to watch other streams and everything, it's like at the end of the day, it is great that these streamers play games, that they have these followers. And I would love that. But I want to produce something that people can walk away with. And while it's entertaining to listen to me DM a game with, you and Vixie,
Sure.
and that could be fun for them. And yes, it could, the way that we game might influence people and inspire them. But at the end of the day, what are they walking away with other than a story that they heard? And other than a shared experience where they're like, hey, remember that one time you crit? Like there's those shared moments, which is great for the community. But what are you really walking away? You're not really going to be able to play in High Point. You're not going to like use my NPCs aren't the ones always that you're not going to always be the ones from Forgotten Realms. So it's not like there's always going to be a thing, right? So I try to look at that and I'm like, I'd much rather be known for the person that gave you something that you were able to use than gave you something that you enjoyed listening to.
Right.
And that's where I'm like realizing where it's like the history of was good, but maybe that needs to take a back seat. Maybe that needs to be like when I have nothing else, I'll do some research or I'll have a couple of topics researched. So when we don't feel very creative, that's what we can lean on instead of, making that the mainstay.
Yeah.
Because I really think that if we can create and give to the community, that's what sets us apart from just, and again, not in trying to say that we're better, but that's what sets us apart from just any other D&D streamer.
It's what we bring to the table, right? It just means we do this. Other people do plenty of other things, but like,
Right.
I feel like it's definitely something we do. And I genuinely feel like something we do well.
I think so too. And I think that's where I need to we need to accept that that's why people want it. Like we do a good job at it, and we need to remind ourselves that that's why we should create because we can.
Yeah.
And not just because we can, but because what we create actually has value, and it would be kind of like a responsibility thing. If we can create things that have value and get people to rethink how D&D can be played for the better, then we should.
What was that Michael Jackson song? Starts with the man in the mirror. Like whatever change you want to see, like you got to start by embodying it. I think it's like, hey, if me as a martial artist thinks that more people should know how to tie their belt properly, then I'm gonna put that out there in the world. I'm gonna make sure people know how to do it. I'm gonna do it correctly. I'm gonna,
especially if you can, right? Like it's one thing to say, oh, they should do that better, but then when given the chance to tell people that and you don't, that's the problem, right? If you're at a martial arts show and you have a chance to, give the kids a pep talk and, help them out with their uniform and you say nothing about the belts, what are you doing? But when you have that moment, you're like, hey, by the way, tie your belt like this and you're going to have your suit, like your gi's going to stay on the whole game.
You're going to be locked in.
Bam. Like that's something that they can take and forever, 10 years from now, they're going to be like, I remember tying it this way. That's how I get in the game. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I want. I want to be the one that taught you how to tie your belt, not the one that, was just there.
Yeah.
And that's what I say. Like it's just one of those also things. Like it's funny how, like a lot of successful people will give you advice, but the problem is the advice doesn't seem very helpful until after the fact. And then you understand the advice. And I'm realizing that now, but the problem is because once they've learned the advice, nobody wants to, because I think the problem is people give advice and it's not understandable until a certain point. And then you look back and go, it's like a hindsight advice. You're like, oh, now I get it.
Sure.
But the problem is most people go, now that I get it, that's why that advice was important, because now I got it. So I'm going to give that same terrible advice that means nothing until the person I gave it to, hopefully, luckily, stars align, gets to the point I did. Whereas for me, I want to actually be able to provide the information in its entirety, right? I don't want to
in a way that's useful prior to rather than only after the fact.
Yes, because too many times it's you understand it later. So it's like, when it comes to streaming, right? Like you always hear things like, if you want to get into business, if you want to get into streaming, find a niche, find an area, find a need, right? Find something that's not being fulfilled.
Sure.
That's all you ever hear is just find your niche, find something that, makes that your power, you're good at, that you're strong at, but also find something that is needed and people want, but also find something that's not oversaturated. And it's like, that sounds all super easy, but what the fuck does any of that mean, right? That doesn't actually help any new creator. It's the same buzzwords you always get. I've been hearing this for like 8 years.
Yep.
As I've been trying to find my little hobbies. It's always find your niche, find out what's needed, and then find out who's not, oversaturating it. And it doesn't mean anything. But now, look at us now. 2 years in, we are subletting subclasses and bringing in pop culture icons into D&D in a way that no one else has done before. And that's our niche. We are creating things that we didn't know.
And our review process, I feel like, is very unique to us as well. Like, other people review, but not like how we do.
But we didn't know that at the time. So the idea that the advice was find your niche, there was no way we were going to find that. We weren't going to just discover that out of fucking nowhere. And the idea of, we'll find out what's needed. We would never have known that was needed until people told us we like it.
But
like the idea is that, like sometimes, I'm just saying that sometimes
the
advice that you get, like now that I look back on it, I'm like, yes, we found our niche. We are providing something that's needed, and we're able to find an outlet where people will consume it, right? So we've checked all those boxes, but the advice is still shit. Telling, it's only good in hindsight because now all of the stars have aligned.
If you could go back in time and give yourself advice when somebody else gave you that shit advice, what would you say to yourself at that point in time? Like, what would you say to give yourself valuable information prior to?
Try things that you want to do. Try things that you find enjoyable that are also not what you see everywhere else. That would be the biggest difference. Don't just find your niche. No, shut the fuck up with your goddamn niche. Do what you like that isn't what everyone else is doing. Find out where, like, we found homebrew review. We didn't come up with that idea as a no one else is doing that, because that's what you think it means, right? You go to D&D and it's like 90% of them are playing D&D and there's like one person writing their world building.
For sure.
You have to be the creative motherfucker to go, you know what no one's doing? Subletting some classes. You know what no one's doing? Homebrew review. That is a completely different type of person. That is not, you're not going to get there by someone telling you, find your niche and find out what's not oversaturated. No, that also comes with being fucking creative. We didn't just decide homebrew review wasn't being done enough, so let's do it. We didn't decide subletting subclasses wasn't being done, so let's do it. We had to strive to create that idea, test it, then found out we're good at it, which means it's our niche. People like it, which means there's a need, and no one else is doing it, which means it's not oversaturated. But we could not have come up with that.
There's something to be said for exploration as well.
And that's my point. That's the advice as I would tell people is
you gotta go out there and touch grass and do shit and be involved instead of just
don't just do the standard or what everyone else is doing, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that's why the advice is shit. It's when they say find your niche, it's not finding your niche, it's find what you enjoy and you're comfortable and confident. That's what finding your niche means. Don't say niche, say find out what you're comfortable and confident in doing that you enjoy. That's what your niche means. And then it's the next piece of advice would be experimental. Test things. Even if you don't think they'll do well, try them anyway. Because that's how you find out if there's a need. And then once you've found that out, it should be pretty obvious whether or not people in your immediate area, again, if you're streaming, it should be pretty obvious to find out if anyone else is doing that, right? And again, if you're like, hey, I love streaming my D&D game, it won't take you long to find out that may be your niche and you're good at it, but it won't take you long to find out that there's 50 other people right this second doing that very same thing. So that's not, you know what I mean? Like that's where I feel like that's why the advice isn't good, is because the advice comes from people who have put the pieces together and go, that's really good advice, after you know it all. But it doesn't, the advice doesn't get you where you need to go. The advice only tells you you've gotten there. And that's why it's not good advice. It's a benchmark. It's not good advice. You don't give people benchmarks to get them to that benchmark. You tell them the benchmark so they know they're on the right track. And that's the problem, is these people, these types of advices that are being given, the find your niche, don't do what other people are doing. These are not pieces of advice, they're benchmarks. You found your niche when you're enjoying it and it's working and you're confident. You know that you found need when people are asking for it. And you know that you're the only one doing it when you're saturating the market, when you're the only one in the market. But those are not things that you can always in every market, maybe in a sales. Yeah. But in this market, you're not, unless you're just uber creative, you're not going to be able to go into a category on Twitch and scroll through and go, oh, these people aren't doing this thing. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to be good at it. And I'm going to have fun doing it. You can't. You have to. The advice should be try things that you like, try new things often, be consistent.
And I think
and be open to adaptation.
Very similar to characters developing in a D&D game. In the type of D&D games that you and I play, where it's very character driven rather than very, mechanics driven. Like, a lot of the times where I end up with a character is not where I would expect, right? And being willing to go down those roads, because when you first started this, I don't necessarily know that you expected to be where we are right now.
No.
Right? Like, being willing to allow the exploration to lead in a sense, but like you're almost like being the bumpers for where you're trying to go, because it's like, hey, I don't want to go too far off the rails. I don't want to do stuff that I don't enjoy, but at the same time, people send you stuff and they say, hey, what do you think about this? And so you tell them what you think about this, and they keep sending you stuff, and hey, let's turn this into a thing. Let's make it a thing. Like, you hear people wanting to know about, like, oh my gosh, it would be so cool if this happens. Well, I would love to explore that.
Yeah,
I think that would be cool to explore that. So let me go explore that, and let me see if you guys want me to continue exploring other. And it just turns into something that's way more real than if you were to just try and be like, hey, I'm gonna go be this guy now. Well,
it's exactly like what you said about character creation, right? It's how we look at character creation versus how like 5th edition kind of presents it. Whereas 5th edition, you kind of do the top-down build, right? You see what you're going to be, and that's your goal. And so all you're doing is waiting for it to happen, because you know what's going to happen, right? It's already been chosen. But like with something like this, you don't choose to be a Dark Viper AU. You don't choose to be an XQC. You don't choose to be Moist Critical. Like, these are people who, when they first turned on their camera for the first time, that's not what they were going to be. They did not say, Moist Critical didn't just be like, I'm just going to just monotone talk about nothing. XQC didn't decide that he's going to just, basically be a piece of shit on camera and get famous, right? Dark Viper didn't know at this point that this is what he would be doing, playing GTA 5, waiting for GTA 6, and just talking about things, right? He started in a completely different world. So you don't start streaming and go, I'm going to be XYZ. Like, yes, we did not start going, you know what? Kage, I want you to come over twice a week and we're going to review things. And then we're going to talk about, new subclasses, right? Yeah. No, I wanted to talk about D&D and I had no fucking clue what I was going to do. I just started, I sat on that couch, turned the camera on and talked to myself for like 5 episodes until I realized what I wanted more out of it, right? And like you said, it's evolved from there, kind of like character creation. We knew generally that we wanted to be streamers, right? Like, I knew I wanted to be a fighter. I knew I wanted to be a paladin. I knew I wanted to be a sorcerer. But I didn't know my subclass. And I didn't know what abilities I knew. I did not have my abilities pre-chosen. I did not choose day one that after 6 months, we would have the Elgato face cam.
Sure.
I did not choose that after 2 years, we would have, this setup. I did not choose that after a year, I developed the tavern. Like, these were not pre-decided things like you do in D&D. These things came with as we learned what our abilities were, and as we had the options, the level ups, it was like, oh, well, it's level up time. Well, I can buy new equipment. Well, what equipment makes the most sense for me, right? Instead of saying, well, I know what equipment I'm going to buy, I'm just going to wait till I have the money. It was oh shit, I have the opportunity to upgrade. What's good for what we're doing?
Yeah.
And that's the difference, right? We're not upgrading in ways that are just to upgrade. We're always pushing things in a way that progresses us, right? Like the equipment that we've chosen, the layout that we've chosen, the builds that we're doing in the back room, even the series, everything that we do is a progression and not just us, trying to do something new. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
Could we be in 4K right now? Sure. Do we need to be? No. Maybe we'll get that opportunity one day. But right now, that's not the most important thing because it's not our vibe. It's
very
not,
much so.
We don't do anything worthy of 4K. I'm sorry, but I don't look that damn good. 4K is not going to change this to, be anything better, right? What you see is what you get, right? So
wild.
With two heads talking, 4K isn't necessary until we get like visuals or we're playing and they want to see the dice rolls, right? That shit makes sense. if we're going to do like a top down camera on the game table and we're going to have minis and stuff, or we're going to have like stuff that can be looked at, then yeah, 4K makes perfect sense. Not right now. So it's like, that's where I feel like you're absolutely right and nailed it with it. You know, this is much more like character creation. And that's the advice I would have given myself early, is I would have basically told myself to have no expectations, try what I think is good, again, one of the best advice that I ever hear any content creator give is make content you would watch. That's right then and there. Like, you don't have to make content that you will watch. It's not like you have to be narcissistic enough to go sit down and watch your episodes and be your own fan. But what you have to do, at least what I did, was take a step back and go, if I were scrolling through YouTube and I found us talking, would I stop? And I will tell you, in the first 4 months of streaming, I definitely would not have. But I will tell you that for probably the last year and a half, that's literally been one of the major drivers behind every decision I've made in admin wise. Like, everything I do, the way that the stream's set up, the way that we're set up in the studio, the way that we do our transitions, the camera, like everything I do is with the mindset of, if I were just scrolling and this just happened to come across my feed, would I stop? And that's a big deal for me, right? Am I correct? Do I know what the average person wants to see? No, but I know what I would want to see. And that's what I can do, because I'm not the average person, because I don't know what everybody wants. I mean, if I knew that, wouldn't I be making money? Like, I would be a social media manager if I knew that. I would just be making money off of other people, telling them how to present themselves. I'm not good at that. But what I am good at is knowing what I would want to listen to. And that's what's going to keep me interested, right? Like, if I were just doing history ofs, this channel probably would have died a long time ago, because I would have gotten bored with just talking and reading scripts and giving information. The fact that we moved into the more creative realm, where it's all opinion, that's the realm that I'm best at. Not because I don't, I can't be wrong. It's just, this is where I flourish. This is why D&D is so good for me, is because it lets me question myself and come to conclusions, right? Like, it's not just about anything I want happens. It's, well, yeah, anything I want could happen, but let me make it enjoyable and tangible in a way that anybody else could hear it and see it and go, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's what's fun for me, right? That's where I get my kicks out of it. So yeah, I really like that analogy, that this is much more about a progressive type of character creation and not a concrete character creation.
Very much so.
I wish that's the advice I would have got. I wish that someone I had looked up to would have just told me, just have fun with it, experiment, don't have expectations.
Definitely.
And
that's huge.
And follow, I guess, just what I would just call, like, follow the valley. You know, on one side you have all the things that you want to do, right? In a slope of how good you want to, how much you want to do them versus things you don't want to do. And then there's the other side of, what the audience wants, right? On one side of that slope is exactly what the audience wants, but that may be terrible for you, right?
Sure.
It's the people that just chase the content, but it's terrible for their mental health or whatever. And on the exact opposite side is you having the most fun possible, but having nobody that watches you. And you got to straddle that in the middle, right? The valley in the middle, where the water flows, right? The water is going to have the least resistance. You want to be the water that flows to the valley. So you want to do the things that you enjoy, but people want, but you don't want to do too much of either. And you don't want to be on either side of that hill. Yeah. You don't want to be those streamers that have one viewer, because while they're having a blast, they're just not entertaining. But you also don't want to be that person that's just literally spewing out brain rot because it gets views. Yeah. And that's where it's like, I want to be right in the, I want to be in that happy medium where I'm getting to do what I enjoy and people are and liking it. And that's where the river is going to flow. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%.
That's where I want to be, is flowing down that river, or whatever analogy you want to use there.
I like it. I like it a lot.
All right. So I guess the big moral of today's stream is that not much will change. We're just going to get more into rotating the new series more on Fridays. And we're going to try to do some really good content for the next 4 months until hopefully my life doesn't get completely destroyed.
And we need more paladins in media.
Hashtag more paladins in media.
Hashtag more paladins in media.
All right. Well, I think that's going to end us. That's way past the 3-hour mark. I cannot believe I had enough energy to get through 3 hours.
That was great.
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate every one of you who showed up. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream and enjoyed the chat. You can expect more as we go. I'll probably be on this weekend for some games. So, yeah, I'll probably do some streaming. What do I actually have? I think I have plans this weekend, or is it just fixing these? Oh, no. On Sunday, we're busy. So I'll probably do some games tomorrow. What can the folks look forward to on Monday?
A new race. The Daemon Dogs.
Oh, the Daemon Dogs. Yeah.
By Smarty? Marty? No, Desmar.
Desmar. Gotcha. Okay. Well, on Monday, join us 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for Homebrew Review, which we have the Daemon Dogs. Really interested to see what those are all about. Of course, we'll be back next Friday as well. I don't know what we'll do. Maybe we'll do some subletting subclasses. Maybe we'll do image to item, but we'll probably rotate in one of our series until I can get the history of magical identification out of the way, and then we'll do that one. And yeah, otherwise business as usual.
Oh, cool.
For the next months at least. We'll keep y'all posted. And remember, this month, Saturday the 29th, we will be doing the community stream, which vote is up in Discord right now. So feel free to do the Discord. And, fun little fact, I should be cleaning up and fixing the onboarding in Discord this week. Oh. I almost fixed it today, but I just...
Ruby?
I could not brain enough. So if I brain tomorrow, then I will fix that. But hopefully it'll be... I think I can get both the onboarding process, the nickname updates, and the role assignments all done during the onboarding process, or at least all in Discord. So
very nice. Very, very nice.
Updates to come in Discord as well. But otherwise, I think we're going to end it there. Thank you all for showing up, for hanging out. Soul, it's always great to see you and have you chatting. Cart, thank you for all of the suggestions and the questions. It's always great to have that kind of feedback. Nugget, thank you for showing up as well. And I think that was everybody I saw. I think Red Lego even popped in there just for a second to get their points.
Oh, fair enough.
So, gotta get them stream points.
Gotta get them points, hey, y'all.
As long as somebody shows up though in chats, I'm all right. As long as you guys say hi, you know what I mean? Give us the view, give us a unique view in a chatter, and I'm happy, all right? But thank you all so much. It's been fantastic. I hope you guys I hope you had a great week, and I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend ahead of you. We will be back on Monday, and be sure to check us out if we are streaming this weekend. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a good night. Rest up, and we will see you guys on Monday. Cheers.
Deuces, my friend.